Receive instant notification each time I upload. Please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Helping you along the way. Helping you to make it through another day. Yeah. Everything you need to know that you never knew that you need to know. Lockhart perspective.
Well, hello and welcome everyone to today's podcast. We are doing part 2, and we're asking a question and we're also answering a few things that's been thrown out there lately. We are looking at a lot of history, and we have an exceptional guest with us today. That is none other than Ronnie Mann, and I want everybody to give him a nice little thumbs up and a hello out there in the comments. And if you don't mind, please give a thumbs up to the video so that way other people will also be notified of this recording. So, again, welcome everyone to the podcast. And Mr. Ronnie Mann, welcome to you as well, kind sir. How are you today on this wonderful Shabbat?
Oh, well, thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here on the Lockhart Perspective. Yeah, so
I think we had a lot of great comments over the evening here from last night to today. A lot of people left a lot of good comments. One of the things that I think was most important was that I noticed a lot of people poured out that, hey, you know what? I've known about this, or I've been thinking about this. And one thing that I really, really admire about the folks that tune in here is that they are open to listening to information, because oftentimes you have so many unanswered questions from your quote unquote religious walk, or just questions in general. And what I like about this channel, and what I like about it when you come over, is that people are actually able to get some answers so that they can start to do their own research. I mean, that is what I really, really want. And I'm so happy that you're with us today so that folks can do just that. So where should we start today?
okay. Well, first of all, I was looking at 2 Corinthians chapter 11 right before we went on, but nonetheless, you're right though. We've been so steeped in what we've been taught since, I don't know, maybe even childhood, that we forget that we should always dig in and do our own research and do our due diligence to make sure that we know what we think that we know, and that we believe what we profess to believe. And as we get older and wiser and more knowledgeable, we begin to realize that things aren't always as cracked up as they seem or appear to be. So we should always take a conscious effort to examine the things that we've been taught, the things that we know or believe to know, and line it up with the truth. And a lot of Christians in the world today, they believe that the scripture is the truth, is the word of God per se. So we have to line up everything, all of these quote unquote theologies or doctrines or dogmas that we find ourselves believing, professing, and or that we come across, and we have to examine it and line it up with those scriptures to make sure that we are in line, because in actuality, by doing so, we end up being in Yah's will, and that is the most important thing, to always be in Yah's will.
Agreed. And you know what I want to also add? You made a good comment while we were chatting, and I will liken this as unto a, not an inquiry, as it were, not a trial, but oftentimes you remember the phrase whenever you're watching one of those suspenseful movies where they'll say, you have the right to remain silent. Any words you use, and I'm paraphrasing here, can and will be used against you. The reason why I really like the direction that we have taken here specifically because what we're doing is looking at the words of Paul, looking at the words of whomever it is that we are using as the topic for that moment. And we are cross referencing as a very well examined practitioner would, the words that they said and juxtaposing those words to what we understand as the word of Yah. And so, whenever we're looking at any topic, we're always going to look at it based on what the individual says, and we're going to juxtapose it to what Yah said. And the only way that we can balance out anything somebody has to say, especially about somebody else's words, all right, I'm going to use that loosely, is to look at the original, take it from quote unquote the horse's mouth, take it from where we remember things being said. And so I'm very happy that we all have the intelligence and the understanding to note that without us being able to examine any of the words from the individuals that we are looking at in history, since none of us were there, that's the only way that we can give them a quote unquote fair shake. That's the only way that we can examine what's been done and where and how it motivated us to do what we did and believe what we believed. And it challenges us to accept what we have right now today as truth. Does that make sense? Is that
Yeah.
fair?
Yes, definitely. And the words that you say out of your mouth, that is the measure in which you will be judged. So we do take the words that is being said, and we examine them for face value, and then we match it up with what we profess to believe is the truth. Absolutely.
Great. So what I've done is I've already pulled up Second Corinthians 11. I heard you mention that that was somewhere you were looking at. Is that a fair place to start today, or is there somewhere else you'd like to start?
Pardon me. Yeah, we can start there. We can definitely start there.
And I have the NIV up.
Okay, that's cool. We can use the NIV. So okay, let's use the NIV since that's what you have up. So we've been examining what's been going on as far as what Paul professes to believe, and the things that he has been saying as far as what, out of his own words, his gospel is, and what he has been professing all across Asia Minor to gather in new believers. And we called him in a lie yesterday. No, I take that back. He has been caught in a lie, and he was justifying that lie yesterday. That's what we looked at
Absolutely.
on part one.
Absolutely.
And so as far as the Corinthians are concerned, he's writing the Corinthians, and you can see his dismay for the quote unquote other apostles, and the New International Version will have you believe that the other apostles are false apostles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's quite interesting because we're not looking at the context as a whole, but when you go ahead and read chapter 9, chapter 10, into chapter 11, into chapter 12, and just Corinthians in general, you realize that he's talking about James, Peter, and John, and the what he refers to as the super apostles, and they and pretty much how they think that they're all that, and they look down on me, but I don't even really care about what they have to say. And so he's like,
he's pretty snarky, wasn't he?
It's definitely it's like he's causing a division, but he's the one who is coming with the slightly altered gospel that has not been preached for millennia plus. Because these people are waiting for a Messiah, and it's been that Messiah has been viewed one specific way or what have you, and then he comes along and slightly alters how we're supposed to go about worshiping our Creator, our quote unquote Father in heaven. And we see that all across the board. But the thing, yeah, you said snarky. He has beef with the apostles. But what's crazy is these aren't what you would be led to believe as false apostles. These are the people who walked with Yahweh Shai. This is James, Peter, John, and them boys. You know what I mean? These are the original apostles, and he's having you believe that they're the false ones, they're the faulty ones, they're the ones who are lesser than, and you need to be listening to him, and him only. He has the reputation of I'll kill you if you're doing the thing that I don't agree with. And he definitely uses that in his letters, and to sway your opinion towards him. He constantly tells you, when you see me, yeah, I look like I can't do any harm, but just remember that I'm a big bad bully.
But you know what? Remember the passage that my sister had sent to us last night, and I just cracked up laughing, and I sent it to you, and I was like, "Wow, if this is not a warning, I don't know what is." And it was the one dealing with the was it in Genesis? Was it Genesis when it was dealing with the Benjamite? I'm not sure if it was Genesis or I think it was. I don't know. But do you remember the passage that I'm talking about when you mentioned wolf?
Oh, ravenous wolf.
The ravenous wolf. He'll come in. It's a Benjamite. He's a ravenous wolf or whatnot. I'll
That's
go
right.
ahead and look it back up.
That's right.
Oh,
So
Genesis 49. Genesis
so so
49.
that's
I want to look at that right quick. I
so
want to,
that's
as you
Jacob's.
speak, I'm going to change it up. So go right ahead. I'm going to go ahead and pull that one up. Genesis 49:27. And the reason why I'm doing that is because basically that answers a couple of things that to sort of like do a little bit of cleanup or not house cleaning, but to deal with it. And I'll read it here. And it's Genesis 49:27. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf, devouring his enemies in the morning and dividing his plunder in the evening. I'm going to leave that right there, but that's Genesis 49:27. And if you don't mind, would you please, because that was something that was mentioned, he was a this and he was a Benjamite and he was blah, blah, blah. Could you please sort of break that down before we get into the Second Corinthians, if you don't mind?
Yeah. Jacob is the father of the 12 tribes or what have you. He had 12 sons who are the quote unquote tribes of Israel. And he was, before he left this earth, he was giving out blessings to his sons. Benjamin, this was his blessing. He said, hey, he's going to be a ravenous wolf. It's interesting that that's the blessing, but nonetheless, he is stated from his father that he will be a ravenous wolf. So it seems like it could possibly be a foreshadowing when we move forward into the quote unquote what we call the New Testament, where we have Paul, because he is indeed a Pharisee of the stock of Benjamin. He's a self-professed Benjamite who has grew up and has been diligent in the law his entire life. And we see that he may or may not be acting as if he is indeed a wolf in sheep's clothing, in the sense that all of a sudden he has switched it up entirely and saying, hey, you don't need to do certain things that you have always known to do, and these other super apostles are telling you to do. You can actually do it this way and the other. And he slightly switches it up, and it does seem like he can indeed be a ravenous wolf. Because what does a ravenous wolf do? That they come and they steal the flock, and they destroy the flock. They eat the flock up. And he definitely, we saw last night
with Apollos.
Yeah, he snatched Apollos' disciples up with a quickness. As soon as Apollos turned his back, he was like, yeah, we're going to do it like this.
And that's amazing to me because, and that's why the question that, that I posed or that I basically made is it's actually sneaky idolatry in that it sneaks its way in on those who have good intentions, and those, those of us who, like myself and others, who have gone on to, Bible college, who've done all the work, who've done everything they were supposed to do to teach that specific thing. And the irony is that there is no deviation from it. It's no, this is it and that's that. And if you ask any questions, you're either going to get a D on the exam because you're putting in the answers based on some research that you've done that line up with biblical, historical biblical context, and then also the actual physical natural world history. And then so you get sort of side-eyed by people who are paid to teach you a certain thing. You know what I mean? And so it's like, it's really good to know that while we're looking at these things, there is always the truth to be, to be determined, in that you're able to study it. And so I always tell everybody, and I'm going to reiterate it today, that if you have any old ideas that were in your apple cart is going to get disturbed today. It's going to get tossed over. You're going to lose a few apples. They're going to roll down the hill. They're going to be all bruised and battered, and you're not going to put them back in your cart because, well, you won't want them to damage the apples that you have that are salvageable. And so I always say that whatever you come here with, you have to empty it all out and be prepared to learn or listen. And you can't regurgitate the stuff that got you here. You know what I mean, Ronnie? It's like you cannot keep regurgitating the stuff that says, we're all standing outside in the sun and this person is stuck saying, no, it's night. That's not a sun. I was taught that's the moon. And we're like, yeah, I know, but don't you feel that heat on your skin? That's the sun. It's not the moon. No, it's the moon. I was taught it was the moon. So in that, just to lay that out as elementary as I just did, I will just ask that everybody be respectful in the chat. And to make sure that, that you're at least giving it a fair shake and listening. And if you listen, that's good. But just be respectful in the chat. I do have my mods here today, which are Sandy Aaron, Rage Against the Machine. I also have, where is he? Susan Donahue. And then also, I just saw him, but I don't see him. There he is, Michael Powell. And so I have a lot of mods here today that are going to sort of govern in my absence, because I'm not going to be, looking at the chat often. But just remember to be respectful while you're here, while you're visiting. We will definitely respect you. But I ain't gonna take no foolishness. But I do want to just say we are here to pose the question, which is, was Paul a liar? Now, if Paul were here, he'd be able to defend himself, and he would be able to, with, as he states, the soliloquy, he could come with a superfluity of speech and do X, Y, or Z, and he would be able to. So all we're doing today is we're answering the question, was Paul a liar? And what prompts us to ask that? And what do we have as evidence from his own mouth that could prove he is? So now we will go directly into the show. No more stopping from here. And that's that.
Okay, so yeah, as far as what we've established already is that the question that is posed is Paul a liar? He's actually a self-professed liar. What we read in Romans 3, he said, hey, yeah, I've lied, but my lie is to advance the kingdom, and it was for the glory of quote unquote God. So whatever that means, that is definitely a that's something that is on record that he has out of his own mouth stated. Verse 30 of 2 Corinthians chapter 11, it says, if I must boast, I will boast of things that show my weakness.
What 31. Verse are we?
Verse 30, and now I'm in 31. So he's been bragging and boasting the entire time, but he's saying, hey, but I'm super humble, but I'm bragging and boasting, but I'm only bragging and boasting just because everybody else is bragging and boasting. So if I was to brag and boast, this is what I would say. And I'm paraphrasing, but if you read it for yourself, you'll see that's exactly what's going on.
May I read it just for clarification?
Well, verse 31, it says, this is the point that I'm trying to make. It says, the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, who is to be praised forever, knows that I am not lying. I wanted to make that point because when you start to read Paul's letters with this understanding, or at least with this angle and viewpoint, you'll see that he is constantly trying to reassure everybody, hey, I'm not lying to you. I'm not lying to you. So he must have this reputation that he's, like it must be out there that he be lying often.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
It's
at
been a
least
couple of times where he's been trying to defend himself for sure. Between last night's program and tonight, we
and,
see,
and
yeah.
this is constant. This is a consistent thing and theme in his letters. He's constantly letting you know, hey, I'm not lying. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna brag and boast, but I do know this guy 14 years ago. I know this man 14 years ago who was caught up in the third heaven, and he's seen these astonishing, immaculate things that man can't even speak of. He's referring to himself. Okay, I take that back. It seems as if he is speaking about himself, but he's being coy about it because he doesn't want to boast. He's saying, hey, I'm weak and I'm humble and I'm meek. But if I was to boast, I would brag about this man who has been to heaven and seen things. And this was 14 years ago. And then he goes and then he professes to say, and I promise you, everybody, I'm not lying. So there's this reoccurring theme where he is constantly trying to prove himself that he's not a liar. So either he lies often, or he has demonstrated this one huge lie that he can't shake off of his character or his reputation. But what were you trying to read?
No, no, no. I was going to go in ahead and read the verse 30, because we do have a lot of people who, I have a few people who use it where they're just listening. And so some people are driving, and so I just wanted to read it, but you pretty much covered it. I was going to start at verse 30 just to, speed everybody up to where you are, and and stop at the end of 31, if that would be okay.
Yeah, I read it. It says, if I must boast, I will boast of the things that show my weakness.
Yeah.
That was 30. But I went down all the way to the end of this chapter just to let you know, hey, by the way, I'm not lying. He needs to tell you that. He always needs to tell you that.
And Susan says, don't we all know a guy like that? Yeah, we do. We do. So I'm going to be quiet and I'm here, but tell me where else you want me to go, and I'll go ahead and pull it up.
Yeah, Second Corinthians chapter 11, just starting it off. He says, hey, why don't you put up with my foolishness, a little bit. In verse 2, it says, I am jealous for you with a godly jealousy. I promised you to one husband, to Christ, so that I might present you as a pure virgin to him. But I am afraid that just as Eve was deceived by the serpent's cunning, your minds may somehow be led astray from the sincere and pure devotion of Christ. For if someone comes to you and preaches a Jesus other than the Jesus that we preached, or if you receive a different spirit from the spirit you received, or a different gospel from the one you accepted, you put up with it easily enough. And which is interesting because he takes issue with the people that are doing this, but this is exactly what he did to Apollos' disciples.
Absolutely.
And it's like, how I don't that's not even commendable. That's not commendable at all as far as like an attribute to have as a man. Like, you're crying foul when somebody perceivably does it to you, but you deliberately and blatantly do that to
It's
other
like
people.
gaslighting 101. It's
It
like
really is.
to the 10th power.
So who gaslights? Like we know that these are narcissistic tendencies, and I'm not saying that he is or he isn't. I'm just saying, like, look at it for what it is. Look at it for face value, and it's kind of obvious. But we tend to put Paul on this huge pedestal. But all men being equal, let's just look at it for what it is, and then we can see, hey, something's kind of off here. But when we read these letters, we read them like they're super holy and spiritual, but just look at them for what they are. Like, he's telling you, I'm a man. Let me write to you as a fool. Like in verse 16, I repeat, let no one take me for a fool, but if you do, then tolerate me as you would a fool, so I may do a little boasting. So like he's definitely in his man flesh, and let me talk to you down to earth real quick.
But you
So
know what? It reminds me of when we'll hear like a politician say, in the middle
exactly.
of us, in the middle of us paying $5 or $6, or in like in California, $7 or $8 a gallon for gas. No, there is no recession. We are not in a recession. Meanwhile, skyrocketing prices for the homes, are jumping, and people's rent is tripling and things like that. And they're like, no, there's no problem. Listen, if there was a problem, I'd be the first person to say it, because when I was a child, I used to live in a really bad neighborhood, and you're looking at them like, dude, you went to an Ivy League school. Your father was rich. When did you ever live in the hood? Okay, let me shut up, because if you're saying it, it must be some truth. So just let me sit here and listen. And the danger in that is, once we listen and listen and listen, because faith cometh by hearing, and hearing, there is a comma there. Faith cometh by hearing, comma. Faith cometh by hearing. That comma means it's another piece of a thought there, right? And hearing. So whoever, and I don't listen, one thing that I'm going to say is that used car salesmen or used chariot salesman, as Susan said last night. Used chariot salesman will always tell you that this thing was just owned by one little old lady in Pasadena, to the best of my knowledge. And I'm going to tell you now, that little old lady only drove it to church, the grocery store, and to see her sweet little grandchildren. And you get to buy it into it. It's like, well, he is telling me the truth. He did tell me that it had one owner, but they forgot to listen to the piece that said, to the best of my knowledge. And they knew good and well they were lying. And then you get that chariot down the street, the wheels start falling off of it, the horse gives up. And you have a lot of problems. But anyway, go ahead. I'll say less.
Well, you can tell that he does have a smug approach when he is speaking to his quote unquote congregants, or his assembly, or his church, if you will. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, because
So,
he considered, he's like, I'm turning you into, basically paraphrasing, I'm turning you into a very clean bride. Don't worry, I got you.
right. So he lets you know. He lets you know with a smug demeanor. Verse 5. Uh, it's okay. So he's upset that other people might come and say and tell you things that are slightly off from what I've told you, but these people, in other places, he says, are to be accursed. So he's cursing his brethren, which is, something that we are not to be. We're not supposed to do. We're supposed to love our brother, but he's throwing out curses on them. For saying anything that not even refutes, that is slightly off from the gospel that he is disseminating. And out of his own words, he tells you in another place that this is my gospel. This is my gospel, not the gospel. This is my gospel. I have received this. Nobody else, just me. And this is what I'm disseminating to the to the people, to the world. Verse 5, it says, I do not think that I am in the least inferior to those super apostles. Mind you, he's not speaking on false apostles. He's talking about James, Peter, and John, and the rest of the 12, because now we have Matthew, or Matthias. He's speaking about those. And like I said, the translators will have you believe that these are false apostles, but then now you believe, if that's the case, you believe that James is a false apostle, or you believe that Peter is a false apostle. Verse 6, it says, I may indeed be untrained as a speaker, but I do have knowledge. We have made this perfectly clear to you in every way. Was it a sin for me to lower myself in order to elevate you by preaching the gospel of God to you free of charge? So, he's just letting you know, I've done a lot of things for you on my own, free will, and in many cases to my disadvantage. but I'm not boasting. To God be the glory. Then in verse 12, if you scroll to verse 12, it says, and I will keep on doing what I am doing in order to cut the ground from under those who want an opportunity to be considered equal with us. Mind you, he's talking about Peter and James and John. He's trying to undercut these people. This is a terrible approach. This is a terrible approach when we look at it. And this is the thing. Everybody since the beginning, since Genesis, has been stating the same exact thing. It's Paul who has came in and started saying something that is slightly different. Even Yahushua, when he came, he said everything that matched up with what the scriptures profess. Paul's saying something slightly different, and then he's undercutting the apostles. And then it says, for such people are false apostles. So he's blatantly letting you know, hey, these people are false apostles. Deceitful workers, masquerading as apostles of Christ. So he's playing this humble role, but he's letting you know, hey, those aren't the real apostles. I'm the real deal. But, I'm speaking as a fool. So let me just go ahead and boast on myself a little bit. But mind you, I know this isn't how I really think. I'm just speaking to you as a fool. Just entertain me for a moment. In verse 14, it says, and no wonder, for Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. And we hear that all the time. Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light. And we understand that concept. But in context, this was Paul who stated this, and he's talking about Peter, James, and John.
That's the deep part. John especially. He taking digs at, that's the part that gets me. I mean, yes, Peter, yes, yes, but wow. Go ahead.
I just want to highlight that because you've always heard, and the principle of it is sound. Satan himself masquerades as an angel of light, because in actuality, he is an angel of light. The thing is that, like I said, he's speaking about the ones who walked with, the ones who were given the Great Commission.
Face to face, given the Great Commission.
The ones who were given the Great Commission.
Exactly.
And he's letting you know, nah, they're false apostles. They're deceitful workers. They're masquerading. They're play. I'm the real deal. And so, it's just, you said smug, I think, snarky. I forgot what you said, but
yeah, snarky, just real.
And when you see it for what it is, I would have to agree with that. And I'm not giving you my opinion. I'm just I'm just reading it off, but I'm putting it in proper context. Their end will be what their actions deserve. So you're judged with the measure in which you judge. And he's putting it out there. Their ends will be what their actions deserve. And he's inadvertently putting that on himself. I repeat, verse 16, let no one take me for a fool, but if you do, then tolerate me just as you would a fool, so that I might do a little boasting. In this self-confident boasting, I'm not talking as the Lord would, I'm talking as a fool. Since many are boasting in the way of that the world does, I too will do it. Why? Because he's a chameleon. I'm all things to all men. What do you need? What type of car salesman do you need today?
Because I'm going to be like you want me to be, so that I might win some of your money, so that I might win some.
And I don't want to come off like I'm condescending or what have you, because I'm literally wanting to approach this like I'm just this is what he's saying. But you can read in between the lines.
I think what you're pointing out is important, because it's context. It's who is he talking about? It's who throughout this entire deal has he had a struggle with.
And so you can see exactly, and you can see who the beef is. And this isn't my interpretation of it.
No,
He's
not at all.
telling you out of his own pen what the deal is, because look at verse 21. To my shame, I admit that we are too weak for that. Okay, I'll read 20. In fact, you even put up with someone who enslaves you, or exploits you, or takes advantage of you, puts you on airs, or puts on airs, or slaps you in the face. And we're too weak for that. And it says, whatever anyone else dares to boast about, mind you, I'm speaking as a fool, I also dare to boast about. So now I'm gonna match. I'm gonna match their sin, and I'm gonna go ahead and sin right along with them. You don't prove points by matching sin, but nonetheless, verse 22. Are they Hebrews? So am I. So I'm literally I'm letting you know that he's specifically talking about the people who walked with Yahweh Shah. Like, are they Hebrews? Well, so am I. Are they Israelites? Well, so am I. Are they Abraham's descendants? Well, so am I. So he's not talking about just in random and in general, vaguely just false apostles all across the board. He's specifically being derogatory towards
yeah,
James, Peter, and John.
exactly.
Because they run the show up in Jerusalem.
Correct.
And he gets driven out everywhere he goes. And so, he feels a way about it. And, on a human level, that is understandable, but like, he's constantly airing his grievances to his congregants. And it definitely brings divisive, it's like, pay no attention to these guys because they're phonies, but they're the ones who indeed were commissioned to do this thing. But I was too. I had a vision. Y'all don't know about it. Nobody saw it, but like, I'm telling you, I'm not a liar.
That's really right. That's right. That's right. But you know what? I want to ask you this, because it appears to me like, the whole idea about people hopping on a bandwagon is not a new thing. When you used to see people, like, the Indians or the Native Americans, the first Aboriginal had a way of going out into the fields and pulling up, herbs and, bark from trees and things like that to heal their family. And then you saw the Europeans come in and be like, okay, they're selling snake oil. Look at this. If you put this on your body, as opposed to those, branches and all of those pieces of flowers and herbs, this will make you healthier, better. This will do it even faster. It's like they come in, and it's not like we've not seen this before. I think that's what I really want to stress. It's not as if what he's doing right now today, especially in light of all the stuff that we've seen, right? It's not like what he's doing is so uncommon. I can imagine there were a lot of people trying to jump on the bandwagon to get a following, to have folks follow them. And for whatever the background or the context or the reasoning is, I believe that's exactly what we're seeing. We're just seeing it with clear eyes now, as opposed to the lens from Rome or the lens that's now westernized. You know what I'm saying? Especially if you're looking at it, that Peter, that the three were literally given this commission. They were literally, from those that, so for example, let me just play devil's advocate for just a quick second here. And it may seem a little odd, but let me just go there. I'm going to cook. So you've got Jesus, and Jesus gives the commission to these folks, right? To, let's say, just the three that we're mentioning right now. And then he tells them, this is what I need you to do. And this is the work, and this is the way, and this is what I want you to remember. And this is how I want it to be done, because this is the will of our Father. And that's what I want you to hold on to. And I could imagine those three, as well as any others who decided, hey, I remember too. But I can think of those three remembering what he said, and then making sure that they followed this to a T. Now, when I look at Apollos, who already had his folks all lined up, as soon as Apollos was absent, he comes in and said, well, did you do it like this? Well, were you baptized like that? But Jesus himself was baptized
with John's baptism.
But thank you. And so now we've got this person who's jumping on the bandwagon.
Can I point something out that is entirely off? It's not in the vein that you're going.
No, please go ahead.
But dare I say that Yahweh Shah, for all righteousness to be fulfilled, he was baptized in John's baptism. And John's baptism is the baptism of repentance.
Absolutely, it is.
So
It
dare I say
absolutely is.
that Yahweh Shah himself had to be baptized in repentance? Dare I say that?
Well, because being here, it absolutely is the way. You follow the way. So it absolutely is something that's very important. You know what I mean? It's important to note that. And to
It's
what,
important
you
to
know,
note that.
yeah, it's vital
In
to it.
order for all righteousness to be fulfilled.
Mhm. You see what I'm saying? It's like we can be mesmerized by somebody who can do magic, right? And I mentioned, how Moses put down the staff, and he would do this, and then the magicians would do something that resembled a miracle too, right? Because it was possible to do that because of the spirit with which they were working under. They allowed themselves to be used by those spirits, and that's the reason why they could do what we would consider quote unquote miracles as well. So it's not just to say that Masha or Moses was not able to do. Moshe was able to do these miracles, but these cats came up and they did them as well. My only point to exegeting that small excerpt is, whenever you have somebody that has that believe me face or those bugged eyes, like believe me, those eyes are bugged because they're really trying to convince you. They're speaking in a certain way, they're bringing things to your remembrance, and they're all, but the one point that I want to drive home here is these three cats had the commission from the man that this dude says he's now telling you. They saw him face to face. You give me an account of you driving down the road on your horse, and I'm not negating that. And I'm not saying that nothing didn't come out of the sky and hit him and knock him off his horse. And I'm not saying that he wasn't blind. I'm not saying any of that. What I'm saying is these three were with him. Now you, time and time again, are refuting what they're saying in the name of peace. You're refuting what they're saying in the name of the way. And yet they were taught and they were told and given a great commission to do this. Now you're coming, throwing doubt in the people's mind about what Yahweh Shah said, right? You're throwing doubt in their mind and you're causing confusion. And as you cause this confusion, you keep saying, hey, yeah, but I'm just a fool. Well, don't pay any mind to me. Go ahead, Ronnie. I just wanted to throw that out there. Ronnie, I see you're still on mute. You got
Yeah,
it? Okay, I see
pardon
you're
me.
off.
Can you continue for a moment?
Yeah, I can. You want me to continue? Yeah, I could go.
Just for a moment.
No, but to be very candid, these are the little intricate pieces that I look at when connecting dots. And because I don't have, any I'm not beholden to Paul. I'm not beholden to, to anything. I I'm now able to really just look at it for face value. And like we said at the very beginning, when I said, if this individual were in court, we would have to use the words that he said out of his own mouth, to juxtapose it to what Yah says. If quote unquote God says this in this particular passage, and you already know that He says, "I am quote unquote I am the Lord, and I changeth not." And I'm paraphrasing here what I said yesterday. I'm the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. I am the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. And He also makes comments like, this is what you will do and your generations after you and the generations that follow. And he always does that in an effort to allow us to understand there is no deviation. And as a matter of fact, he points out, if there is anybody that comes to you that deviates from this foundational truth that I have given to you, stone them, get them out of the town. They are not of me. If they come and they tell you something opposite of what I am telling you, and listen here, this is just foundation. I used the analogy last night of Jack and the Beanstalk, that if he had just did what Mama said, he wouldn't have had any issues. We wouldn't have even had the story. You see what I'm saying? He would have went in town, did what his mama said, and got himself back home before supper. But that's not what happened. And whenever you take a deviation, that deviation has a price, it has a cost. And so that's why I am posing the question, was he a liar? And if so, how? And if not, based on the word, not what, and most of you all know who taught me. I was taught by Dr. Price. I went to his school. I went to his college. I graduated there. I was taught by several of his protege who were all what they call, they called him the Godfather of faith and all that good stuff. I learned how to study under him. I know his wife. I know his family. I knew him. So it wasn't as if I just sort of brushed up against him. So my point is, I was taught by somebody who really taught us to examine everything. Bam Crawford was luckily enough, I would have to use luckily as a very, loose term, but I was taught by her from Sunday school all the way up. So my point is, I'm not a novice at this, from 1976, even though I'm only 59, from 1976 on. I would say that I was, in the company of Schambach. I was doing street witnessing with his people and, going out doing all kind of wonderful things. But that stuff is nothing if what I've learned deviates from the truth and the way. They didn't mean to do anything that they did in a negative way. Why? Because we were all taught from the same books. But when you begin to really examine some of the words and you see this is diametrically opposed from what he said over here. And I submitted last month, and in my opinion, I believe that these are just two manuals for two sets of different individuals. And they were sewn or bound together by Rome. And that's the reason why I posed the question, was he a liar? And if he is a liar, how much of an indelible mark did any of the things, if he is a liar, how much of his words left an indelible mark in our minds and in our walk today? How much of what he has taught, when he even in Acts 9 refers to it as his gospel, basically, right? How much of what he says or what he did or how he presented himself, how much of that bled into our lives? And I use that term loosely. How much of that helped to dictate what we think and believe and who we are today? And did it derail us in the way? Is it the way that he's talking? Is he teaching the way, or is he teaching another way? And if he's teaching another way, what did the Father tell us about one that would come later and teach us opposite?
Right. Right. That's huge. That's huge.
Something to think about. You know what I
Well,
mean?
well, it puts it in. It begs a question. Like, so is Paul necessary to fulfill all? I mean, you want me to cut to the chase and give you my opinion? Because
I
I'm
really do. I really
right.
do.
Well,
Because,
this is my
yeah,
opinion. This is
yeah,
my
yeah.
opinion of the matter, and I'm speaking before I show you a lot of things that are to be seen in the scripture, in the text, in the New Testament. But my opinion is that Paul, and he tells you out of his own mouth, he's like, hey, who are you to tell the potter what he's going to do with his clay? If he wants to make a vessel for honor, then so be it. I'm paraphrasing. But if he wants to make a vessel for dishonor, then so be it. Who are you to decide which one is which? This is my opinion. Am under the impression that Paul
No,
was
you
actually
could.
a vessel that was created for the quote unquote his out of his own mouth, his version for the dishonor. And what I mean is based on Deuteronomy 13, which we looked at last night, where it says that if a man, prophet, dreamer of dreams, comes around and even does the most exhilarating miracles in front of you, but he professes something else and he leads you astray to worship another god, then he's basically a test that I have put in your face to determine whether you love me with all of your heart and with all of your soul, and that if you'll listen to me and the words that I have said. And again, that is the beginning of
That's good.
Deuteronomy 13. So this is the thing. Like I am under the at least at this point in my search, I am under the impression that he possibly may probably could be somebody who was most likely, could be somebody who was placed in literally to distinguish the tares from the wheat.
Mm-hmm.
And which one of you is going to hear these fascinating, profound philosophies and be led astray, or who is going to stick to the script and listen to my word and my word only, because I have said it, because I am your Elohim and you are my people.
Mm. Mm. Wow. That's deep. When you really think about it and just really break it all down, it really is deep. And again, I would have to say that he was involved in a lot of controversy, and a lot of that controversy, stemmed from some of the things that he was saying that was opposite of the teachings and the true teaching. See, here's my mindset. My mindset is I'm not going to go put water in the engine of my Cadillac because the manufacturer didn't say to put water in it, and they said to use premium gas. And so it doesn't matter how much you convince me to put the water in this. I already know that if I put water in this, it's not going to work. But what happens if I do have a mind that says, well, my grandfather used half water and half gas, so I guess I can put all water in it? Not that he got down the road too far anyway, right? But out sputtering. But my point is, what if we just begin to take a little bit of what grandmama and granddaddy told us, and we now say, okay, this is gospel, quote unquote gospel. What they're saying is right. So if this guy says I can put all water in it, well, let me go ahead and try, because he said that a lot of other cars before my car had water in it. I don't have any proof, but now I believe him, and I'm sitting here on the side of the road while everybody else is going on. And as I'm sitting here on the side of the road, I can't go anywhere. I can't move. But because now I have this puffed up spirit that I got from the guy who sold me the water deal, my mind is now still in defense of the fact that I was wrong and so was the guy, but I can't be wrong. And that is what we see right now today. We find a lot of, and I have to keep using politicians. Why? Because I don't think that politics is separate from religion. And I know that may throw a lot of people. Why? Because I know that the politicians use religion to get over. Case in point, the seated president just went to a black church just recently and stood up before that congregation and says, I spent more time in the black church or in this church than I have in my own church. And blatant lies. But the person sitting there will listen to that and run with it. He said over here in the church, or wearing pork chop at this church right here, more than he went to his own. Yeah, that's why I'm voting for him again. That man know the word. But you were just lied to by a charlatan. And because they said the words that made you comfortable, and you're a person who is not a liar, you know what I'm saying? You sitting there and you thinking, well, it must be true, because who would just take time to lie? And what would they gain? Well, they'll gain your vote. They gain your mind. They gain your mind. They gain the opportunity to push anything else they want to over on you when they quote unquote win you. And when they win you, now you can't shake it, even though you see inflation when you go spend $7 and $8 a gallon for gas. You already know he did that when you spending $12 for 6 chicken wings at the grocery store. Not in the food line, at the grocery store. You already know this joker's line, but because you've now learned to take on his deny it mindset, somebody can come up to you and say, man, this is not right. You know that you should not be paying $1,800 a month for a place you was just renting last year for $800 a month. No, man, it's okay. It ain't nothing wrong with that. Is everything going to be okay? Now, I'm coming from this aspect because I'm trying to put it down here where we can all relate to it. But these are the things that we have to look out for. And in order for us to understand why we ask the question, how did the church get so off? Why is the church having so many problems? Why is everybody looking like they're crazy? Why are these men sleeping with men? And why are these men sleeping with other people's wives? And why are the wives going out here doing this? In order for you to understand that, you got to understand the cloth from which they were cut. The material ain't gonna change. You can change the shape, you can change the size, you can let out some inches, you can do a whole lot of stuff, but trust and believe burlap gonna always be burlap. Cotton gonna always be cotton. As a matter of fact, you ain't even supposed to mix the two, but somebody will come and tell you it's all good. My only point is, you got to start from the beginning when you want to ask the question, how did the church get so dumbfounded? How did these wolves get in here? It's because at the inception, the goal was to take the kind hearted and lie to them and fashion it with familiarity. The word neek that's highlighted in the thumbnail. You can go and you can look, that word is used over in India. That word is, these are deities. The word neek inside of sneak, sneaky idolatry is what's on the thumbnail. They snuck it in on you. And all I'm trying to say is, in order for you to answer why Reverend Porkchop sleeping with the organist, in order for you to understand that, you got to understand who taught him, where his thought process came from, because it can only flow from the top down. And because he comes dressed up as a bishop, where did the bishops get their outfit, even in the Baptist church? What do the cardinals wear that look identical to what the bishops wear? All I'm doing is asking for you to think outside the box to answer your own question, why you don't even go to church no more on Sunday. You don't even go to church no more on Sunday because you know something's wrong. You don't go because you say, hey, you know what? Fundamentally, we just don't agree. Fundamentally, something just ain't right. I can feel it. I can't put my finger on it. Well, you can't put your finger on it because you refuse to believe that somebody bamboozled you. Somebody sold you some snake oil to rub. They put some Windex on your bump. Like that movie, put some Windex on it, the father kept saying. Just put some Windex on it. That'll make everything okay. You were like, but Windex don't go on there, but you can put it on it. I'm telling you, it heals everything. And so you, like a dumb, go and spray the Windex and you still got the bump. You still got the pain. My only point is, to answer your question, you must unravel what you have learned. Who taught you what you know or what you think you know? That's all I'm going to say. Go ahead, Ronnie.
New wine cannot go into old wineskins,
lest the wineskins burst.
Like you have to make yourself new. You have to make yourself new to get the real actual wine. Because look, the best wine is what is reserved to last.
Oh, yes, it is. At every good party, they bring out the good stuff last. They throw out the.
I mean, if it's an actually good party, because you know the saying goes in the New Testament where most people put out all the good stuff first, and then when they're drunk, they bamboozle you and throw you all this stuff, all the lesser than, the lower shelf, if you will, and because everybody's drunk and they don't care anymore. But you waited until lastly, and you brought out the excellence. Such as a time as this, like the end times, man, knowledge is going to be running to and fro throughout the earth, and it's going to abound. And his people are the ones. The prophets have prophesied that his people are the ones that are going to be the ones to discern it and to disseminate it appropriately, properly. Not the people of Rome, not the people out on the pulpit that have been, that have been ordained by the other side.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's get into the rest of this. Let's go. I just wanted to bring those points out.
Yeah, good point. But yeah, and then go to Acts 20. Go to Acts 20, and then old wine can't go into new wine skins. Like you got to match it up. You have to match it up. So
it has to match up, because if it doesn't match up, then you've got a problem, Houston. There's a problem. This is the BSB. Which one do you want? Not that any of them, you want the NIV. What do you want?
I was in. Yeah, you can go right there. The New King.
NIV.
No, the New King James. Well, whatever you go to. But I was gonna read it.
I'm gonna be. If I have to, then I'm BSB. But go ahead.
All right.
Any specific verse?
Well, I'm starting at 1, but not really.
Oh,
I'm going to sift around, but this is the thing. I'm going to sift around in order though.
no
But
problem.
this is
I'm
the
with
thing.
you.
But we're coming off of Acts 19 from last night, where we
Yes,
have just seen that
absolutely.
he has been in Ephesus for some odd years, where he got kicked out of the synagogues, early on. So he went to the school of Tyrannus, which is interesting. These words mean things. These words mean things. He went to
Yes,
the
there
school of
is.
Tyrannus.
Yes, they mean.
So he can go ahead and continue his teachings in the city, and there he stayed for some odd years,
Mhm.
and he resided in Ephesus for a chunk of time. He got ran out of Ephesus, and then the ending of Acts 19 tells you this big to do about Queen Diana, the goddess Diana, and how he's created this huge uproar in the city, and it would seemingly have you believe that that's the reason why he got kicked out of Ephesus, whereas that is just information given. He got kicked out of Ephesus. He got ran out of Ephesus by the Jews for namely Deuteronomy 13. And
Correct.
what's interesting is he should understand it, because he was doing he was, man, he he all but participated in the stoning of Stephen. Like, he was out here doing the same. Like,
Come on.
Deuteronomy 13 says, if a prophet comes around and they're lying to you, kick him out of the camp, but do more than kick him out of the camp. Like, make sure that they don't ever come back. Stone them, like, get rid of them. They deserve death. The
Here,
penalty.
I've got it up. I've got it right here. Here it is. And we can come back to the other slide, but here is Deuteronomy 13. If a prophet is where it starts. Go ahead.
Okay, where are you at?
I'm right here.
Oh,
It's right
oh,
here,
oh.
Deuteronomy 13. It's
Okay.
NIV, but it's there.
So if you go down to verse 5, it says, but that prophet, the dreamer of dreams, shall be put to death. Why? Because he has spoken in order to turn you away from Yah, your Elohim, who brought you out of the land of Egypt and redeemed you from the house of bondage. Redeemed you from the house of bondage. What's interesting is when we just read in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, he's trying to say that the quote unquote false apostles are trying to put you in bondage. But we've been redeemed from the house of bondage by doing what Yah has told us to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's a twist.
Mm-hmm.
It's a twist.
Yep. It's a twist. I'm gonna go back to the other one, but go ahead.
Okay, but it says, why are we putting this dreamer of dream, this prophets or what have you, that has spoken in order to turn you away? Why are we putting him to death? Because he has enticed you from the way in which Yah, your Elohim, has commanded you to walk. So this is the thing. Are you listening to man, or are you listening to the set apart spirit that is telling you the truth of Yah, of your Elohim? Like, if we're walking in spirit and truth, then we cannot listen to man. Like, don't even listen to what I'm saying. Use this as information.
It's a litmus test. This is the test.
Yes.
It's the
This
test.
is the gauge. This is
definitely the yardstick by which you measure that individual. Wow.
And we're supposed to put the evil from out of the midst. So that's why they kicked my man straight up out of Ephesus. They said kick rock, get lost. Get lost. And then it goes even further into a more intimate setting. It says, even if your brother or the son of your mother, your son, your daughter, your son or your daughter, or if your wife of your bosom or your friend who is as your own soul, like, kindred spirits.
Yeah, the ones closest to you.
Then you're not even supposed to consent to them or listen to them. And you're not even supposed to pity them when they get their due justice.
Their just reward, just desserts.
So I'm just saying. So and then we see that Paul. Okay, I don't know if you went back to.
You want to go? You want to go back to the
no,
other?
You go to Acts 20. You can.
Okay, let me go to Acts 20.
But even if these people are the closest to you, you're supposed to excommunicado.
You know what is so weird? I want to say this because over the past few years, people have taken things inside of their body and they have shut their other family members off that didn't do the same. They had no problem, and they ingested a lie, and they've turned on the people in their family who did not ingest that same lie. And I'm speaking parabolically here. Okay.
I think people double down.
You see what I'm saying? There are people who literally don't even talk to their family members now because they bought the lie, and now they're at the doctor's office like every other month. I've got family member that's like that, family members that are like that. They're there all the time, putting up their money, adding the money to their insurance to pay. Some have even exhausted what their insurance could do last year and still had to pay large, massive amounts of money to try to keep themselves here in this realm. And so when I say that, it's so amazing because they did this. They were wrong and they cut off the family. Oh, that's heavy. I know it's not has anything to do with this, but
it relates. It relates because you're listening to the voice of man, and at the moment it seems like sound reasoning, and it's all philosophy. And we're listening to the voice of man instead of being still and being quiet and taking a breath. And you know, it's a triple entendre.
Right.
Because the breath is the spirit.
Absolutely, pneuma in what is it? I think that's Greek. Pneuma.
That's the Greek. That's the Greek. So, you know, and being mindful of the first love, our first charge, what we're supposed to be doing, which is listening to that inner voice, which is the sound reasoning, not all this fiascoville that's going on all around us, and we're making judgment calls at a whim that we normally wouldn't have. That, you know, that has, man, it says that if you do his will, his and live out his way, which is by listening diligently to the commands that he has established for us, it says that we will live a long, prosperous life in the land that he has promised to the forefathers.
Correct.
And that's the kingdom that we are to inherit, you know, at that end of the age or what have you. It's not, you know, a little parcel plot of land in the middle of the Levantine.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So we see him being kicked out of Ephesus in Acts 19, and then we see the Queen of Heaven, the Greeks' Queen of Heaven, Diana, being
summoned.
No.
I'm trying to help you out here.
Besmirched.
Oh, besmirched. Oh, so there was some besmirching going on.
Yes,
besmirched.
Besmirched. You know, so and then it causes a huge riot, and then Paul has escaped death. Like, he's an escape artist. He's definitely he's good. He's good. He's good.
He escaped. But had them boys got a hold to him, he would have had hands full of dreadlocks if they had got a hold to him, because he would have been fighting his best.
So, you know, he dips ducks and dodges once again, and then it is seemingly looked upon as if that riot was the reason he got kicked out. But he tells you right here why he was ran off in let's see.
I got 21 is where we're starting right there. You want to go down?
Chapter 21?
I have chapter 20, verse 1 up on the screen. Do you want to go down further? Because right here he says, well, after the uproar had ceased.
Oh, but you're in 19? No,
I'm in 20. I'm in chapter 20. You want to go to 19? Go back where we were last night, where we ended?
No.
Okay, well, I'm at Acts 20 on the screen right now, starting at verse 1 through 6.
Okay, right. So he goes to tell you that he has left. If you go down to 18 or 17, it says, from Miletus he sent to Ephesus and called for the elders of the church. So he's in Asia Minor as a whole, somewhere. Because in verse 16 it says, for Paul had decided to sail past Ephesus I would think that you would want to sail past
You
Ephesus.
gonna get on past that right there because they don't
So
run you out.
right, so he didn't want to go back to Ephesus. So he sent for the elders of the church at Ephesus. In verse 18, it says, when they had come to him, he said to them, from the first day that I came to Asia, in what manner I always lived among you, serving the Lord with all humility, with many tears and trials, which happened to me by the plotting of the Jews, not by that huge riot about the
Mm-hmm.
goddess Diana, but by
Mm-hmm.
the plotting of the Jews. Like, he got ran out because of the Jews who were trying
Mm-hmm.
to kill him for promoting this other gospel that
Mm-hmm.
was slightly off base, because even Isaiah tells you that the Gentiles can enter in.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
So it's not a thing about the Gentiles entering in. This
Correct.
is this is Old Testament. This is known
Right.
that one day, the whole entire, like, the world can come, and it'll be a safe haven, quote unquote safe
Right.
haven, for
That's right.
anybody who wants
Hallelujah.
to bow down to Yah.
Hallelujah.
So that's not the issue. It could have been an issue in general, but that isn't the main issue that they're having the beef with Paul. The beef with Paul is that he's slightly twisted the mission, and he slightly twisted the gospel into, now, instead of worshiping Yah, you are to worship Jesus,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Absolutely.
everything is in Jesus's name. That's
Yeah.
the twist, and that's what Paul was doing. And I'm not even denouncing Yahushua, and I'm definitely not
Of course
denouncing
not. No, no,
Yahushua.
no, no, no.
And
I,
and,
I
and, I,
hear
and
you.
I'm not like taking him out of the place, the rightful place that is his, which is
That's
he's
correct.
sitting on the throne.
And
But
that
what I
is.
mean is, we are not supposed to worship anybody but our Elohim.
But Ronnie, can I say something? There are many, many passages where you will even see Yahweh Shah, Jesus, you will see him redirect people back to the Father.
Yahushua constantly, that
He
was his main
constantly
objective. His main
redirect.
objective is
Yeah.
to direct everybody to Abba.
Even Enoch did that. Remember when I mentioned a while back how we were talking how he would come and stay down with the people for a short minute, then he would go away. I think it started out what, like a week, then a month, then a year, then not at all. And he did that because he didn't want people looking at him. He wanted them to look at Yah. Don't look at me for your sustenance. Don't look at me for the answers. And I think that's really and just to speak from a human standpoint, I think that's a pretty fair, balanced thing to do because I know that we as people will always run to who gave us the last, quote unquote, good word or good feeling. We'll go run instead of, there are people who won't even study the Bible themselves because they say, well, I got a great teacher, but if you have a good teacher, they'll tell you, please don't believe me, look this up, research it yourself. And I'm very grateful to the fact that I had people that said, do not believe this. You need to be studying. Your Bible needs to be open more than when you just hear, Sunday and Wednesday. Your Bible need to be open every day. You need to be studying and you need to be cross-referencing all of this stuff. And you know what? I'm going to say this before. There was a time where my main pastor had taught a lesson. And it wasn't until I really, really started studying for myself that I literally, and I think I did this about 2 years ago, I remembered something that he said. I found an archive of the video. I was actually there in the dome on that particular day. And I found found the archive and I said, whoa, he was teaching this. He knew the truth. He knew and he was teaching it, but it was going straight over our heads at that time because we were all indoctrinated in one thing, if this makes any sense, what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So yeah, so I just look at that and it's just important for us to remember that. So yeah, good on you for bringing this up because that's a very good way to think about things. In the grand scheme of things, you got to go back to the fact that even Yahweh Shah, quote unquote Jesus, kept sending people back to the Father, kept sending them back to the Father.
Right,
Enoch did the same thing.
right, and not
Enoch did
father
time and
and
time
father.
again. Go ahead.
Father, not to be confused with Potter, which is the
Correct. Not at all. No, no,
right.
no, not at all.
So like I'm trying to get rid of the word father in my vocabulary because like he's Abba. He definitely is Abba, but the thing is father derives from pater, which is the Latin, which is the Roman god, quote unquote. you know,
That's right.
but
Yeah,
yeah,
that is
yeah.
true. That is right. And I
Pater.
have to correct somebody in the chat, and that's my job to do this. So let me pause for a second. Teresa, I so appreciate you and what you're sharing in the chat. I'm looking at a lot of the things that you're putting up, and I'm so excited that you are here and that you're posing the questions that you're asking. But I want to share with you that when you put this statement here, you are in error. You said, Jesus said, I will tell you the truth. Before Abraham was even born, I am. Who used the term I am? Who used the term? Anybody in the chat can answer this. Was it Jesus that said I am? Who used the term I am? Anybody in the chat can answer it if Teresa can answer it. Who said, tell him I am sent you? I am. I am that I am. Because see, when you look at the who said it first, who physically said it first in the natural, in their physical body, that would be Moses, who physically said it out of his own physical mouth. But that was an instruction that was given from Yah to Moses to tell Pharaoh, I am is who sent me. And so in paraphrasing, Jesus, in this case, as you put it here, okay, he was saying, before Abraham was even born, I am. So he's using the fact that Moses, in reference to where he's coming from in this particular passage, he's literally using the point that I am that I am, not that he was. He's saying, I am sent me. And I'm using it only in this particular context in the statement that's here because I appreciate Teresa's transparency and sharing. And she says, I believe that he was pointing to himself. No, he always pointed back to the person who sent him, the personage. Yeah, he always pointed back. But you know what?
Yahushua never pointed to himself.
He never pointed to himself. But and here's the sweet thing: if you juxtapose the two, just out of fairness, if we juxtapose the two, what Moses was saying, and in this term here, where you shared with us so preciously, John 8:58. If you look at that, they're both talking about the same person. They're both speaking of the same one. I am. So he's just basically letting you know, hey, because he can't talk to himself. He says, nevertheless, not my will. Man, I really wish that this cup could be removed from me. But hey, you know what? Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done. And he's not a schizophrenic, so we know he wasn't talking to himself. We know, but because of the way we've been taught, the way that the Romans have taught us, the way that we've had things interpreted, where it meant something to us at that moment in our life where we first received that information because of our desire and our strong, earnest desire to serve Yah, we've accepted it. But see, now that we are in this, and now that we are unveiling, and now that we, like we said yesterday, are looking at the word apocalypse, not only in the way of, chaos and all that, we're also looking at it as what it also means, and that is unveiling and revelation, right? And so because we're using it in that term, we've got to really remove some of those scales off of our own eye and look at it and see, okay, wait a minute. He didn't ever take the credit for himself. Why have you departed me? When he felt the ruach leave him, he was like, hey, and again, I'm paraphrasing, so pardon me. He said, hey, wait a minute. I feel you leaving me. Why are you leaving me? You know what happened? Why are you going away? Why? I'm up here, but I know I got to stay here. He even said in the Garden of Gethsemane to those soldiers, listen, he knew the power that he had been given to do the work. But if you even notice, knowing that he had the power in him to do the work, not once did he change one rock into a lump of bread. Not once did he call those legion of angels in the Garden of Gethsemane to remove him from that work. We know the power that was ennobled in all of those who came even before him. If you look at when I mentioned about Moses and his rod, and that's, you know what I'm saying? And if you even look at him when he put that rod in that Red Sea and how it parted, we all know that Yah has given power to those who will go in his name and do great things. And so when we look at the passage that you again so eloquently have shared with us, we have to understand that if we even go back to that text, that it was Moses asking a very precious question. Yo, man, I can't walk in here with this cat. Do you realize who this cat is? If I just walk in there the way that I am, they're going to take my head off. So whose authority am I telling them that I'm coming in? He said, tell him I am. I am. And Moses, in all the humility that he could muster, did just that. Because he had enough sense to know that if I walk in that place and I use my own authority, they ain't gonna see me back in the camp. I'm not walking out with one puppy dog. I'm not walking out with one 2-year old. I'm not leaving with anybody. And because we know that he could not really speak well, that he had to use Aaron, we already know he wasn't going in there tripping up on his words. So I appreciate you for bringing that passage and putting that question. And I hope that I have answered it in a fair and just way. Ronnie, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we're definitely off base to the topic at hand, but I mean, since we're speaking on biblical things, I guess that it can relate. But I definitely I would like to say something on that. The fact remains is that there's conflation because of what the original belief is versus what Rome has implemented as doctrine and what they have disseminated to the what population at large. Rome had a council that decided that Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the Christ, that he is to be divinity. That was not etched in stone per se prior to that being solidified at that council, and anything else after that is now heresy, and that happened in at least 1500 years ago. So for 1500 years it has been thought generally or orthodoxally that Jesus is God. To be sure and to be clear, go back and vet me on what I'm saying. We can definitely go into it if you would like chapter verse at another time. But go back and look to be sure. Yahushua never, ever, ever, ever pointed to himself. Ever, ever, ever. He always said, I come in my Father's name. Anybody else who comes in their own name, you will accept him. But me, when I come in somebody else's name, you don't accept me. But anybody who comes in their own name isn't even worthy of being accepted. They you're coming under in the authority of your Father. Furthermore, people profess to believe Paul. When you go back and read Paul's letters, he explicitly, his belief system, he did not believe that Jesus was God. He knew that Jesus was sent and he died he's the lamb that died
Correct.
for our sins, that his
Hallelujah.
Father in heaven had sent to us.
Hmm.
And we are to get to heaven through him. And everything that we do in his name. And in doing so, it has been exacerbated. It's been like totally morphed into, now there is a worshiping of Jesus himself per se as God. That is not the case even in Paul's own professions in his writings. In his doctrine and the doctrine that he followed, he did not believe that he was God, that he was God in the flesh. He was the Son of God, absolutely, but there was a division. There was a specific, absolute separation between the two entities, deities, quote unquote, if you will.
Yeah,
Um,
the loose, you use the term loosely. Yeah,
loosely,
yeah,
very loosely, or what have
yeah.
you. But he became deified through the Roman Catholic Church, and then the conflation has started, and it is a muddy playing field as of now. I assure you that that wasn't the case. If you're professing to believe what Paul says, you are in disagreement with Paul, and he would most likely rebuke you much harsher than anything that can be said here today to try to persuade you otherwise. And I assure you of that, because Paul was.
One thing about him, he was, yeah, he was out there when it came down to letting you know. So let's go on, Ronnie. Because we're already 1 hour and 26 minutes into the podcast. Again, I want to welcome everybody that's here. And if you're just coming in, please don't forget to hit the like button or dislike. It doesn't matter. As long as there's some type of interaction with that button, the algorithm knows that more of the subscribers can be notified of this, and they can, hang out with us. In tandem with that, I want to make sure that everybody is respectful. My mods are on watch today. So if there is any contention or anything that is deemed rude, they have the autonomy to share it very gently, a quick timeout or something like that. Maybe we can reassess ourselves, because these things will go on. Our chat is seen in the future, right? So the mods here do have autonomy to do their job, and I would not have chosen them if I felt they needed monitoring. We do have one chief mod. As far as chief mod is concerned, there's actually two that have the authority to do other things. We have standard mods, and then we have other mods. So just know that I trust them, or I would not have given them the wrench. And so with that, I'll just leave that there. But Ronnie, let's move forward. Again, we're now an hour and 27 minutes in. And I sort of want to get us to the point where we're able to go into so much other stuff, because we did on TikTok specifically reference Mesopotamia, the Samaritan tablets we referenced
Yeah,
last
so let's get on
night.
through this. Let's get on
Yeah,
through this.
yeah, let's go. Let's
Not that this is something that should be rushed through, but the
Not
point
at
is,
all. And I don't want anybody to think that's what I mean.
so in a nutshell, because we did just dive right in, and where was the launching point? The launching point was last night's podcast, or a live stream.
Correct.
And then we're coming right in. But the fact of the matter is that we're seeing that Paul has come in, and he has brought out of his own mouth his gospel, according to the vision that he has professed to see and come to believe as fact. And he is moving forward in this, and apparently he's told this drastic lie that has besmirched his reputation, and he has to constantly fight that off, to assure people that he is indeed no liar, or if he is a liar, it's always to advance the kingdom, and all of his lies benefit God, because God needs lies to advance his.
Yeah, the passage that we read last night is exactly what he was saying.
So it does bring a lot of confusion in and of itself. This is just to break it all down as far as where we are and what has happened in Paul's documented life, as far as Ephesus goes, this was the turning point. This was the pivot point to his, if you ask me, his demise, his downward spiral, where he eventually had to go in front of Caesar himself. And mind you, he went in front of Caesar himself to his detriment, because he talked too much.
Mm.
And I'm paraphrasing, but it literally tells you that they were like, man, we got to put this man in front of Caesar. If only he would have shut his mouth and didn't say that he wanted to be in front of Caesar, I would have went ahead and just, buried the hatchet, and he could have went about his business. But he out here yapping and yapping with those superfluous,
What, the superfluity of speech?
Yes,
The superfluity?
And he spoke too much. He just needs to chill out. And because this is the thing, your words will be used against you. Your words is the measuring stick. The
Absolutely,
things
it
that you
is.
say out of your mouth. And then there's plenty of wisdom in the ancient text that says, hey, shut up.
Absolutely.
I didn't know you were a fool until you started speaking.
Absolutely. Until you start, nobody knows that you're dumb or stupid.
So mind you, he got kicked out of Ephesus, and there's a lot of surrounding circumstances that I have you believe that it was for one thing, but out of his own profession, he says that it was because of the plotting of the Jews why he had to, skirt out of Dodge, get out of Ephesus. And so, but it's constantly trying to put him on equal footing with Messiah himself, in the sense that, where are we at? Acts 20, right? Okay, in the sense that, verse 7, the first day of the week, the disciples came together to break bread. Paul, ready to depart the next day, spoke to them and continued his message until midnight, because he talks a lot. So there were many lamps in the upper room where they were gathered together, and in a window sat a certain man named what? Eutychus? We'll go with Eutychus. Yeah, Eutychus, who was sinking into a deep sleep. He was overcome by sleep, and as Paul continued speaking, he fell down from the third story and was taken up dead. But Paul went down, fell on him, and embracing him, said, "Do not trouble yourselves, for his life is in him." Now, when he had come up, had broken bread and eaten, and talked a long while, even till daybreak, he departed. Then he departed. And they brought the young man alive, and they were not a little comforted. So there are teachings that puts Paul on par with raising people from the dead. This does not expressly state that. It says when Paul went to him, he was like, hey, he's still breathing. He still has the breath of life in him. You have to look at the words in the Greek. It says he's not dead. It doesn't say he's not dead. It says, hey, chill out a little bit. His breath is still in him. And then when they realized that he was alive, it was all good. But there are teachings where Paul has resurrected people from the dead. He is definitely propped up.
Well, he certainly put the poor thing to sleep. So he was not very it reminds me of those old churches where we used to go, and my mama, we would be sleep in the back of the church. We'd leave with our borettes and everything be all tilted to the side of our heads, or even my own children, because we would stay in church all day. So it was like, good night, Irene. They already said a good word. Why don't they just stop and let us digest that? And then we can come back and listen at the rest of the, what I mean? Yeah, so I get it. But yeah, he did. And there is, and you know what? So let's say he was unconscious. Or let's say that the window, because none of us were there. That's not the same as saying, and he raised him from the dead, because you see, they're very careful not to say that.
They don't say that. And then there's not this, whole paragraph expressly saying what a miraculous event this was, and people were brought into the faith, and this sparked controversy. Even it doesn't say any of that. It just says, yeah, everybody was cool. He continued his sermon until he left the next day, and then everybody was grateful, and the situation resolved itself.
But they were not a little comforted.
Well, no, they're right. They were not a little comforted, meaning they were greatly comforted for the fact that he was still alive.
Correct.
Right. Not
Yeah,
for
they
the
were
fact.
happy. He just woke up. I
Right.
mean, that's how it looks to me. It just looked like to me the dude just woke up, and
Oh
they
man.
did drink wine. Was he sleepy? I'm funning. I'm funning. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, homeboy just woke up. Okay, cool. And Paul said, "Look, I can see him breathing. Can't
Yeah,
you
he's
see his chest
breathing,
going up
man.
and
Y'all
down? He's
chill
all
out.
right.
He's
He
breathing.
breathing.
Yeah,
He breathing."
but there are teaching points that will put Paul up into the stratosphere with being able to raise people from the dead, and that's just not the case. I'm not saying that we're not allowed or we're not endowed with miraculous abilities, being that we are in the spirit and that we operate with Yah. I'm just saying that doesn't say that in Acts 20. Um, moving forward, uh, the point that I'm making here is that to round out what has happened in Ephesus, he is out here stealing disciples, and then
Wait
giving
a
them.
minute. I'm sorry. Because he straight snatched almost all, if not all, of Apollos' flock. The people who were following Apollos, the guest speaker snatched them all. Apollos was nowhere to be found, and he snatched them all. I just want to point that out, but go ahead.
Yeah, it was interesting is that there was 12 disciples. So once again, we're putting him on par with Yahweh Shai having 12 disciples. So that's interesting. That's interesting as well. So there's a lot of parallels to try to present him as I'm not going to say a Messiah, but Messiah-ish, Messiah-like.
Yeah,
So
Messiah-ish, like Jew-ish.
oh, right. So listen. So 25, verse 25, it says, and indeed, because he's about to leave. So what he did is he went and called the elders of Ephesus to come and meet him, because he didn't want to go to Ephesus because they were going to get him. So they got on a boat and they met him somewhere. And so he's like, hey, I'm about to leave. I'm going to Jerusalem. I feel like, my life is about to change and it's about to take a turn for the worse. And it's probably going to be the last time you see me. Verse 25, it says, and indeed, now I know that you all among whom I have gone preaching the kingdom of God will see my face no more. Therefore, I testify to you this day that I am innocent of the blood of all men, for I have not shunned to declare you the whole counsel of God. Therefore, take heed to yourselves and to all the flock among which the Holy Spirit has made you overseers to shepherd the church of God, which he purchased with his own blood. For I know this, that after my departure, savage wolves will come in among you, not sparing the flock. Also, from among yourselves, men will rise up speaking perverse things to draw away the disciples after themselves. Therefore, watch and remember that for 3 years I did not cease to warn everyone night and day with tears. What I'm saying is that he's telling them to beware of somebody when he leaves that's going to come and snatch up the disciples. And I'm just like, dude, that's kind of hypocritical, because that's exactly what you did
Exactly.
a chapter ago.
With impunity.
With impunity, right? Like, I'm just out here doing this. This is what I do. However, I'm warning you that this is going to happen when I leave, and please don't allow that. It's disingenuous
It is at best.
at best.
At
At
best.
best. Yeah. So I wanted to point that out. So he goes off,
Share.
and then so on and so forth, and then we all know that he ends up in front of Caesar, and it gives us a cliffhanger, but tradition or traditional history shows that it wasn't good for him, and that's where his life ended. But nonetheless, we see that he has lied. When we look at the other books like Jude, or pardon me, or James,
I
or
love James.
we see that they are constantly warning you of wolves in sheep's clothing.
Constantly.
And I assure you that at
Especially
least
the
see.
context of the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. If you're looking at it contextually, as far as the historicity, the time frame of everything, they're warning you about what Paul's out here doing.
Hmm. They are. And that's the important piece. And again, I can't get away from the whole Peter, and I can't get away from the John, and I can't get away from the fact that he was literally taking pot shots at those who were literally with Jesus while he walked. What else do we have
Go to
to gain
Revelation
from
2.
this passage here? Go ahead.
Go to Revelation 2.
Yeah, let's do that. I want to
Okay,
do that.
so when we see it, when we read this the text with this type of understanding, as far as Paul having some beef with the original apostles, and then even referring to them as super apostles, and I don't think that I'm beneath them, that type of attitude, you can start to see that there was really some tension in the letter writing,
Yeah.
back and forth. I'm talking about on both sides.
Yeah.
They never spoke poorly of Paul. Not unlike Paul
Yeah.
speaking poorly,
He was
yeah,
sort of,
they never spoke poorly of Paul, but they did warn you constantly of this other thing that has never been and all of a sudden is, and wolves in sheep's clothing be coming around trying to sway you into another direction. But remember your first love. What's interestingly enough, did you pull up Revelation 2?
yeah, it's on the
Okay.
screen now. It's
Okay,
right
so
there with
look,
the
so look.
loveless
So he
church.
was intently speaking on Peter, James, and John. So John, what they refer to is who they refer to as John the Revelator. He is writing to the church of Ephesus, out of this vision that he has from the angel, and this is a warning, or a message, I should say, uh, um, from the angel
Mm-hmm.
to where? The church at Ephesus.
This, yeah.
So keep the context, keep the context, in mind, in the forefront of your mind when you're reading this. It says, to the angel at the church of Ephesus, right? These things says, he who holds the 7 stars in his right hand, who walks in the midst of the 7 golden lampstands. I know your works, your labor, your patience, that you cannot bear those who are evil, and that you have tested those who say that they are apostles and are not, and have found them as liars. And you have persevered and have patience and have labored for my name's sake and have not become weary. Let me just pause right there. The church at Ephesus ran Paul out. Ephesus ran Paul out. This is saying you've tested people who say that they're apostles, but you found them to be liars instead of actually apostles. And it says, and instead you persevered and have patience, and you've labored for my name's sake and have not become weary. Nevertheless, I have this thing against you, that you have left your first love. What's the first love? Yeah. Remember from where you have fallen, repent and do the first works. What's the first works? The law. Or else I will come to you quickly and remove your lampstand from this place, unless you repent. Once again, he said,
Correct.
unless you repent.
Correct.
So let me say that again, or let it say that again. Verse 5, remember therefore from where you have fallen, repent and do the first works. So go back, repent, turn around, turn and return back to the first works. Or else I will come quickly and remove your lampstand from its place, unless you repent. But this you have, that you hate the deeds of the Nicolaitans, which I also hate. So thumbs up for that.
Hmm.
And the Nicolaitans are the ones who want to lord over you, the ones who want to give you like man's voice over Yah's voice,
Correct.
man's mighty thumb that enslaves you over Yah's voice. That it seems like, man, why does he have so many rules? But it keeps you in green pastures and rivers of flowing waters of life. So This is very interesting that Ephesus is talking about apostles that actually aren't, and they're liars, and we see. Okay, I'm not gonna be coy. John's talking about Paul here. We'll put that out there. John's talking about Paul here. Go run and tell that.
Mm. Mm-hmm. You there?
Yeah, I just want that to sink in real quick.
Yeah, it's like a Selah moment. I got it. Okay, I'm quiet now. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So that being said, so what's going on? Paul has propped up Yahushua. I mean, this is the thing. Yahushua is already propped up. I mean, he is the Melchizedek. Like he supersedes Aaronic law, Levitical law. You know, he's the Melchizedek law. He's the king and the priest. He is the high priest of high priestesses.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
he's top. He doesn't need a lie, or he doesn't need help in making him larger than life, if you will. But we are supposed to bow down to him because he is our king.
Mm-hmm.
And you bow down to your king. You humble yourself in front of your king, but you don't bow down to him and worship him like he is your Lord, because he's not your Elohim. Yahushua has an Elohim, and his Elohim is his Abba in heaven. And we are actually his brothers who reign with him in heaven. We reign with Yahushua in heaven. We are kings and priests also. We are his brothers who are seated on the throne with him. So Yahushua's Elohim is the Father in heaven. That's our Elohim. Yahushua is not our Elohim. Our Elohim is not our high priest, is not our king. However, we show reverence. We bow down. When you enter the room, you bow your head. You give him respect. You show him all the respect that is due. But we don't worship him as quote unquote how the English says God. You don't worship him as quote unquote God. I'm gonna say that again. You don't worship him as unquote God. But this thing that Paul was perpetrating in the first century has become an idol. Okay, so check this out. Yahushua, right? He likens himself to the serpent, the bronze serpent that was put up on a pole that Moses put up in the wilderness, that when the people looked upon it, they were healed. Yahushua likened himself to that and said, just as the serpent was put on the brazen pole by Moses in the wilderness, then the Son of Man, not the Son of God, the Son of Man must be lifted up as well. And he was referring to himself having to be crucified, going to be crucified on Rome's, in Rome's capital punishment. So he likens himself to that. Please understand that the people that were in the wilderness, they looked at that brazen serpent and they were healed.
Correct.
They were getting bit by serpents. People were dying left and right.
Yeah.
They were healed.
But you remember they didn't even remove those who had been harmed by the serpents. They sort of left them there as a message to say, you see what happened to them. You see what happened to them. They're still here. You see that wound that they got? Okay, you don't want that, so you need to keep pushing. You need to keep doing the right thing. You see what happened here? Yeah.
So when we look upon Yahushua or whatever, just like that, he was lifted up on the pole or what have you. Then we are healed as well. That's the metaphor or what have you. And he likens, and he goes specifically enough to directly liken himself to that. in the wilderness when that brazen serpent was lifted up on the pole. So this is the thing: those ancient people in the wilderness, they eventually started worshiping that pole.
Yeah, they did. So much so that now people get upset when they see the caduceus changed around a little, when they see a little this added and a little of that added. I'm like, gee whiz, that is idol worship. Isn't that amazing? Because, and I am going to deviate here
And
just a little bit.
that's not deviation. That's
Yeah, well, I'm
exactly
going
the
to say
point.
this. Yeah, and here's what I'm going to say to that point is that it's so amazing because when Moses came down, that one of those final times, it was like a conversation was when something like this, hey y'all, and it wasn't Moses saying it, hey y'all, look here. I'm convinced that if you guys don't get it together, you're going to be marrying the wrong people's daughters. You're going to be laying down with them. You're going to be eating at their houses. You're going to start to celebrate their holidays. And basically, that is where man is now because they don't understand, especially some who have a specific lineage, and lineage is everything. There are some that do not understand that even though you're in the land, you don't take up their customs. And this is what the crux of this is. If you are a Roman Catholic, then you should believe everything the Roman Catholics say, and you should be a good Roman Catholic.
That's
If
right.
that is who you are,
That's
and there
right.
should be no reason for you to be here because we're not teaching Catholicism and we're
I,
not speaking about you living and being a good Catholic.
I
It would
agree.
behoove you to go to the Vatican.com or go to the go to the Pope's website or to their YouTube channel and sit and feed there because that's what you believe. And conversely, it's important for you to know that you're not going to go anywhere opposite of where you are supposed to be. Whatever house you're in, then go to that house and stay there, because you can't walk in their house and try to convince them opposite because that's their house, if that makes any sense. So I think that the undoing of Rome is what needs to be done. Anytime you look at something with their lens, you're never going to see it anybody else's way. You're
With
never going
their
to see it
lens.
even in the eyes of truth. You're never going to see it the way the book of Deuteronomy sees it. You'll never see it the way the book of Leviticus sees it. You will never see it the way that Genesis sees it,
You'll
even
never
though
see
they've
it the way Yahweh
canonized
Shah sees it.
that they've canonized those books, and that they've allowed you to have them, and that they've fiddle faddled with everything, and that they've injected themselves in passages. It is so funny to me because when you have allowed Yah to just lead you, you can even see while reading now in some of the quote unquote New Testament things that's been injected. Because if you understand motive, you will do a litmus test. You will do a litmus test. I'm going to say that again. If you understand motive and you understand who wrote what, if you understand who allowed these things you're reading now to be given to you, and why they allowed them to be done the way that they've been done, you will understand that it, as a musician, returns to coda, goes back to the beginning of where we started the whole question. So you gotta unpack Rome. You can't keep spitting out Roman things thinking that you're going to get anybody else to move in your direction, because it's Rome that you need to shake off. It's Rome that you need to get rid of. And if you don't get rid of Rome, that's okay. Just go be a Catholic. They say themselves they are the largest Christian organization in the world. And there'll even be people that'll refute that. Well, I don't believe that they are because they don't do this, this, and this. They have a start date, dude. They got a start date. Christianity has a start date. Come on now. They got a literal start date, a date in which they began. A date, and I'm going to say that again, a date in which they began, a date from where they started to now. So if you're a Christian, hang out with the Christians. You don't need to be over here. If you're a Catholic, go on over there with the Catholics and live like the Catholics live. But what we're trying to do here today is to make sure that we are presenting enough evidence for you to go and study on your own. Study on your own. Study. without the lens of Rome. If that's what you want to do, then you're in the right place. If it's not, then I'm sorry. You're sort of like, you're like kicking your heels and kicking your feet up against stuff. That ain't gonna change because that's not what we're here to do. Ronnie, we're already almost 2 hours in. Let's see, where do we have to go? We got some promises that we made. So where are we going?
Going to Revelation 13.
All right, I'm going to pull that tab down, Revelation 13, and here we go. You're at verse 1.
Yeah. So John is telling you that there are liars at Ephesus who say that they are apostles, but in your due diligence, you have found out that they're not. So these people are the ones who ran out Paul out of Ephesus, and Paul paints them as the bad guy, but the writer of Revelation is telling you that they are righteous in doing so, that these are the good guys. So once again, we see the only discord in the rhetoric is the things that Paul has had to say. Everybody else, well, not everybody else. From what we've seen thus far, the at least the writer of Revelation, lets you know that something went down at Ephesus that wasn't, correct. That was, had to be corrected, and the thing is that now there is Jesus worship. There's Jesus worship, and that has never been the case for the people of Israel. There was never supposed to be. I mean, even in Ezekiel, he said that he saw an abomination of abominations, something that topped the charts of abominations. He peeked through the the lens of he peeked through a hole in the wall and seen the people weeping for Tammuz in Yah's temple. So
And that's pretty telling, Ronnie.
It is extremely telling.
That's very telling. I mean, that when he told him, "Son of man, look, and what do you see? Tell me what you see." And he goes, "They're weeping. The women are weeping." He goes, "Okay, and who are they weeping for?" Again, paraphrasing, but they're weeping for Tammuz. And it was that amazement. So foretelling. So foretelling.
So listen, man, we have Tammuz being wept for, being mourned for. Why is he even anything inside of the temple of Yah? Inside of the temple of Yah should only be for anything to do with Yah. Why are you bringing these side things into play? Tammuz, who's Tammuz? In the Mesopotamian or in the ancient, we might say Tammuz or whatever, depending on if you're speaking, if you're looking at the Akkadian, if you're looking at the Babylonian or what have you. But it's Dumuzi, Dumuzi, Tammuz, one and the same. That is the
Phoenician deity.
I mean, Phoenician. You can say Phoenician.
It's all Phoenician.
It's really all the
same. The Adonis of the Greeks.
Adonis to the Greeks. Adonis to the Greeks. Mm-hmm. So who is this character in history? This is the dying and rising God.
I hope we're going to my favorite part of this study today. I hope we're going to my favorite part. Let me text Roy. Go ahead.
This is the dying and rising God. And so check this out. Dumuzi, Tammuz. Look them up. I mean, I'm sure some people are
No, I mean I know who it is, but
people already know who he is or what have you.
Yeah,
but in your due diligence, look them up. This is the dying, rising God, who is not a false God per se, or as far as just an idol that really doesn't exist. And people were legitimately actually worshiping him. And Ezekiel saw it in a vision. Now, mind you, Ezekiel's vision was in the future. And he took a glimpse into the future, and he saw people weeping for the dying and rising God in Yah's temple.
Yep.
Please understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And then it goes on to say that or it's painted in the lens of this is an abomination of abominations. This is because he was showing them abominations. He said, hey, you want to see something even more terrible than that? Check this out. People out here in Yah's temple, crying for a whole other. And how many of us have seen the Passion of the Christ? And how did we cry in the movie theaters?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Oh
tears.
yeah, we cried.
And
Moved
I'm
with
not saying
compassion. Moved
that's
with
not
compassion.
exactly. I'm not saying that's not a terrible scene, and that's not,
No,
I
no, no,
mean,
no, no.
like,
We get it.
right. I'm just saying that um the worshiping of that has no place in the house of Yah. Okay, the people made a mistake in the wilderness and they ended up worshiping the thing that healed them, the brazen snake, the brazen serpent, pardon me, fiery serpent that was placed upon the pole in the wilderness. They ended up worshiping it. It had to get destroyed because like people were like, it was a relic, like it was a thing that people Israel started worshiping, literally worshiping it. And one of the kings had to destroy it because they were like, you
Mhm.
can't do this. This is actually a part of the law where it says that we're not supposed to be idolatrous, and here we are worshiping it. So fast forward to today, that's the same thing that we're doing when we kneel at the cross. And people started worshiping the thing that healed them instead of giving Yah the glory and the praise
For the healing.
for the healing.
Mhm. Mhm. That's like a big swift slap in the face, to be honest with you. If you just stop and think about it. Imagine if you do something for your children and then they go out and they thank the mailman. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah, I ordered it. I paid for it. The mailman just delivered it. Are you serious right now? And they're out there just hanging on his every word. Yeah, I can see what you're saying.
So in Christianity, we also know that quote unquote Jesus is the Passover lamb. And then so now we're worshiping Jesus. But like even people that observe Passover, they don't worship the lamb that saved them from death. They thank Yah for providing the lamb that saves them from death. But instead, now we're worshiping the lamb. We're not supposed to be worshiping the lamb. We worship.
I mean, that puts it down where the cows can get it, to coin a phrase of a good friend of ours. That just puts it right there. Say that again, please. Say it
It's
again.
true. It's true. It's true. Like he is the lamb that was slain since the foundation of the world. Okay. This is a known, I mean, if like we believe that if we understand who Yahushua is, or even who the metaphor of Yahushua is,
Yes, I got you. I'm
okay,
with you. I'm
okay, okay.
tracking.
So we understand that and we bow down to him, but we're bowing down like it's in Daniel. It's in the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, El Elyon is called the Ancient of Days. We see him make an appearance in the book of Revelation as well. He's the Ancient of Days. He's the one sitting on the throne, and he's the one who crowns the Lamb. Like so the lamb, and we understand the lamb as being, quote unquote Jesus. But what does the lamb need to be crowned for if he's always been crowned king? Who's doing the crowning?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I hope this is making sense. But mind you, we are sitting here worshiping. Okay, well, I'll put it in the lens of Ezekiel. From what he saw, he likened it, because he can only go off the context of his time frame
Well,
when
the
he was
time frame,
alive.
yeah.
He sees Tammuz being worshipped in the house of Yah, and he's like,
And
"What?"
it's the future that he
And
sees.
this is the future. Everything that Ezekiel is seeing is in the future tense, in the coming kingdom. And he's writing down the quote unquote rules and regulations of this coming kingdom, and how it's supposed to be enacted or played out, and who's who and what's what. And this is the coming kingdom, and we know that coming kingdom is still coming, like it hasn't happened yet, so it's still in the future. And he saw people crying for Tammuz. This is Tammuz worship. Tammuz is the dying and rising God. So is
Okay, come on,
Adonis.
let's get with it.
So
We
is
got you.
Adonis.
I just want to see that good piece. Come on.
So is Adonis in the Greek.
All good.
So is Adonis in the Greek. So is Adonis in the Greek. Adonis, that's where, and Adonis from the Greek, that's where they get the word Adonis from the Hebrew, Adon.
Okay. And where does that and
Adon means
tell us
master.
about that.
Well, Adon means master. I think that it would be familiar to you with Adonai. Adonai.
And come on, give me some more.
That just means my master or what have you. But the thing is, who is Adonai? Like same
Come
thing.
on.
In the Greek, he dies and rises up. It's the same thing, except for he was like the most beautiful, fantastic, this, that, and the other.
Really?
You know what I mean? In beauty, beauty for ashes. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, come on with
But
it.
look, it all goes together.
You know, I'm waiting for you to just bust us in the head with this. I already know.
So I'm just making it.
We got it. It's plain. Come on. Come on.
Okay.
Don't be scared. Come on with it.
Okay, look. So there's a beast from the sea, and in Revelation 13, verse 5, it says, and he was given a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and he was given authority to continue for 42 months. And then he opened his mouth in blasphemy against God, to blaspheme his name, his tabernacle, and those who dwell in heaven. It was granted to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. So, and authority was given him over every tribe, tongue, and nation. So this is a beast that is basically ruling the world, and he even has dominion over Yah's people. And if you couple this with the book of Daniel, we know that this beast is a governmental power structure.
Facts.
So the beast is a governmental power structure, and if we don't know by now, Rome is ruling the Western world.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at tax code, right? I'm reading tax code, and it's brought to my attention that the tax code that America uses right here, right now, today, is the same tax code. Okay, not the same. Is the Roman tax code from 2,500 years ago. Like, we're literally like, this is Rome. This is Rome, and I find that fascinating as well. I mean, I don't find it
it's very telling, because
I'm not in shock. I'm not in shock. I'm actually like, duh, go figure. But yeah, this is the Roman tax code. It's just that Congress votes on deviations, for maybe 5 or 6 years worth of how we're going to enact and work the code. But the basis in the principle of the code is it's been laid out 2,000 years ago by the Romans. So we are still in this new Roman construct, and this revelator that is writing, he sees it as Mystery Babylon. He's looking at it, and what he's seeing is future tense, and he's like, yo, this looks like the domination, the world domination of what Babylon is. And he's looking at it with the lens of what he has read in the book of Zechariah. And he can see, oh, this is what Zechariah was talking about. And he tells you, and mind you, go read Zechariah. Head bust, super whoa. Wow. So he's like, okay, so this thing that's coming up, this beast system, it's a beast system, and it's the government. And he's saying that it performs. Look at verse 13. It says he performs great signs, so that he even makes fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and he deceives those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast, who was wounded by the sword and lived. Verse 15, and he was granted power to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast could both speak and cause as many as would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand and on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. 18. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So just let me just break that down subtly. It's not
No subtle, bust us in the head.
well. What I'm saying is that
Let me say this: you busted me in the head. How come they don't get the same treatment?
okay. Okay. So well, what I'm getting at is that people say, oh, the mark of the beast is 666. No, break it down what it's saying to you. The mark of the beast is not, inadvertently it is, but it's not so much that the mark of the beast is 666. Look what it says. Here is wisdom, verse 18. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and that number is 666. So 666 is not the mark of the beast. Let's break it down. 666 is the number of a man.
Mm-hmm. Or in men.
It is the number. Well, I'm reading.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
I'm reading what the New King James is telling us. So the number 666 is actually the number of a man. That number of that man is the number of the beast. Okay. So verse 17, it says, no one can may buy or sell except those who have the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So the mark and the name and the number are basically one and the same. The mark, the name, the number of it, it's all the same. And the number is 666, which is the number of a man. And that number is the name or the mark. Are we following along? That number is either the name of the beast or the mark of the beast. It's all the same thing.
I'm tracking. Right. I'm tracking.
Okay. So we're gonna do some flipping through the text real quick and go to Ezra chapter 2.
Ezra chapter 2. Okay. Ezra chapter 2. Gotcha. Ezra. Okay.
Okay. So
we need to have some Carol Merrill music.
So in verse 1 it says. So in verse 1 it says, now these are the people of the province.
It's not there. It's on the other screen. Okay. No. I've got to pull it from one screen to the next so that everybody can see it. I'm using two different tabs.
All right. So the mark of the beast, the number of the name, or the name of the beast, it's all the same.
In King James?
I'm reading the New King James, but it's whatever.
Okay, New King James. Gotcha.
So the mark of the beast, the number of the name, or the name of the beast, they're all the one and the same, and it's the number of a man. And that number is 666.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. For context sake, verse 1, it says, now these are the people of the province who came back from the captivity of those who had been carried away, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away to Babylon, and who returned to Jerusalem and Judah, everyone to his own city. So these are the people who returned from the exile. Mm-hmm. And it goes down this list of people, and it gives you the number of the people that came along with the heads of those bands of people. Verse 2, it says, those who came with Zerubbabel were Joshua, Nehemiah, Sariah, Realiah, Mordecai, Bilshan, Mispar, Bigwai, Rehum, and Baanah.
I think I have the wrong passage up here.
Ezra chapter 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize.
And I was reading verse 2. But mind you, it's just letting you know that the people who came with when Zerubbabel went out, it was a group of people that came with him, and those heads of the bands of people that came with him had a number of men that came along with them.
Mm-hmm.
So in the middle part at the end of verse 2, it says, the number of the men of the people of Israel So now we're looking at numbers of man. The people of Parash were 2,172. And it goes down the list of all these people and the number of people that came along with him. Go down to verse 13.
Okay. I'm there.
Read it.
Okay, and verse 13 says, the people of Adoniakim, 666.
Okay, so 666. So over there in Revelation 13, John the Revelator was giving us a clue, was giving us a hint.
Correct.
Like, hey, it's the number, like this mark of the beast, which is the number of the beast, which is the name of the beast.
Correct.
Is the number of a man.
Correct.
And people who understand the history, 666, you can go back to Ezra, because Ezra wrote the book. After the exile. Ezra wrote the book, and it tells you in verse 13, the people of Adonikim was 666. So if you can go to the interlinear into the Hebrew, let's examine exactly what it's saying. Adonai Kim. Are you in the Hebrew? Because I'm not on that side.
I'm in the Hebrew now.
Okay, so it says, these are the sons of the province who came back from the captivity of those who were carried away, whom had carried Nebuchadnezzar, who was the king of Babylon, who returned to Judah. Oh, what?
I'm actually in the interlinear on Ezra 2, verse 13 itself.
All right, yeah, give me a moment. Forgive me. It says the sons of Adonikim. Okay. Adon Yakam. Okay, so that's Strong's 140, right? Click on that real quick. Okay. It's two words. That's two words. That's Adonai and that's Kawam. Adon, Adawan, and Kawam. Okay, so Adon is master, right?
Correct.
And Kawam means to rise, to rise up. Look at the definition of the word. My Lord has risen, right?
Correct.
Listen carefully to what this is saying. The mark of the beast is the number, is the name of the beast, and it is the number of the beast, and that number is the number of a man, and that number of the man is Adonikim, which means the risen Lord. Please understand what this is saying. The risen Lord. If you worship the risen Lord, that is the mark of the beast. This is what Revelation 13 is telling you. If you worship the risen Lord, that is the mark of the beast. Who has control of this governance? Rome.
That's right.
They're the ones who told you that Jesus is God.
That's right.
Ezekiel saw people. Tammuz is the risen Lord.
That's right.
They have equivocated Jesus to be the risen Lord. I'm not saying that he didn't, he wasn't resurrected by the power of Yah and this and that.
Right. That's not even.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is if you're worshiping him, that is the beast that has had power over the saints.
Correct.
In Revelation 13, and has spoken like a lion, a devouring lion, but is giving you the impression that they're a lamb. But when they speak, they're speaking vicious words to you, and they are killing the saints. They have dominion over the saints to conquer them, and and then it rounds up the whole entire context by saying, "Hey, this is the number so you can know what's going on." And it doesn't directly tell you because the scripture speaks in code. The scripture speaks in parables. So only the people who are worthy enough, who do their due diligence to look and find and seek and find, are the ones who will gain access to the kingdom, into this invaluable thing called everlasting life. And he's letting you know that Adonicom is the risen Lord, and that is where you find in Scripture, because all Scripture has to corroborate itself.
Absolutely, it does. It can't stand like that. Yeah, it has
So,
to
so you
corroborate.
had where two, Deuteronomy lets us know that you need 2 or 3 witnesses for a thing to be established. And these are the 2 witnesses right here that establishes the thing. And it's just coincidental that Adon and Kawam just happens to mean the risen Lord. It's not a
I don't think
coincidence.
it's a coincidence at all. And
So,
it's not us saying it, it's right here.
and this is the idolatry that we are presented with and that we are steeped in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's absolutely. And I mean, if you really look at it for what it is, it goes right back to what was being stated earlier on, about an hour into the podcast. And we were basically saying, hey, you know what? We are not to worship, we're to worship the creator. And we are to bow. Of course, we're to do our due diligence, but we don't put him in the place, or anybody or anything, whether it be a cross, whether it be a fish, like they have the fish on the back of the car with the cross sitting in it. We don't put any of that in the place of Yah. We don't do that. He is, and he doesn't need any help. He is, and he doesn't need any assistance other than for us to worship him.
He says,
We
I give
don't
my
put
glory, I give my
anything,
glory to no man.
yeah, we don't put anything ahead of him, anybody ahead of him. Again, if I use the analogy of you, mama, daddy, ordering a bunch of good stuff that your children need and the mailman bring it, they're not supposed to go and chase after the mailman and make little bitty mailman, little trucks and put it around their neck and wear it about their wrists and tie it about their heart, put it around their heart. That's not, no, they tell you, thank you, mama. Thank you, daddy. They utilize what it is you purchase for them, and they'll always remember you in the fondest of ways because you supplied the need according to what you said you were going to do. It's the same thing here, but in a very slow and subtle way, as I shared with you about the word neek earlier, meaning familiar, family. It is a deity. Look that up. It's a couple of different deities that will make you very comfortable because that's what they're supposed to do. So they make you very comfortable. And it is that comfortable, sneaky idolatry that slipped in on every single one of us at one time or another. For none of us that are listening or talking are, unless of course you don't believe in nothing, and that's cool too. Do you, boo boo? But there's nobody that has not succumbed to this in one way or another.
Mhm.
And again, we're looking at the complete unveiling or the apocalypse of information that needs to be done in order to put us back on track so that we do not hear. Go away from me. Get out of my face. I never knew you. You never knew me. You never studied to understand who I am. You never understood I am. You never wanted to. You felt comfortable in having been told that you a sinner, I'm a sinner, everybody a sinner. It's impossible to please him like this. And so you sort of rested on just knowing what you needed enough to know to, be friendly at family parties and gatherings. You were comfortable with just, knowing enough to not offend anybody. But I'm going to tell you something about truth. It will offend. And even Jesus, Yahweh Shai, said, hey, I didn't come to fight. I'm a paraphrase. I didn't come to have no party. I came here to divide. I came here to shake stuff up. That's what he said. He said that. But my only point is, in as much as he never, ever, ever took the credit for anything that the Father, that he says, it's not me, not me. You give it all to him. And why do we not? And we need to understand one thing, the important reason that Satan came to him and said, hey, if you are the Son of God, go on ahead and turn this rock into some food. Eat some food, man. Ain't you hungry? You've been up here all these days. Go ahead on and jump. And I guarantee you there's going to be a whole bunch of angels just come up and they're just going to pick you up. You're going to be good. The book say that if you jump down, you hurt yourself, they're going to be there to take care of you lest you dash your foot upon a stone. Go ahead and jump. Go ahead and kill yourself, basically what he was saying. You have to understand that Rome has to have control. And the only way they can have control is by giving you a replacement for truth. because it's not their gig to give you truth. It's your gig to search for truth. It's your gig to believe none of what we're saying, but go and look it up for yourself and study it.
So
That's your gig. You must study, because if you don't study, how is he going to be approved by the things that you do? You have no approval by him if you've not studied to know him. If you've not studied to delineate between what is and isn't him, shame on you when you want him to recognize you if you've chosen Rome. If you choose Rome, then you must rock with Rome, and ain't nothing wrong with that. But if
that's
you're
right.
choosing him, you got to come with it the way he needs you to come with it, and that is by remembering your first love. Remembering your first love. I said something here a while back, and that was that every time they send something up in the sky, it happens on the Sabbath. It looks like every single time. And Ronnie, I believe you were the one a couple of years back that mentioned that every single time they go up in the sky and start tampering with stuff, send up this and send up that. Because I don't know, Japan was supposed to be the first person that just landed. What was on Mars or something? I don't know. They got a rover up there. But they do everything that they do, and they announce the stuff that they announce on days that people here in the earth, few people, actually follow and live their lives by. New
Um,
moon day, new moon, Sabbath.
right, right. And those are
They
the
they
things.
they know enough to know what truth is. It's the people that they've beguiled with the lies that have a hard time swallowing it. And we've all been there. Don't believe none of this. Go study for yourself.
It's
Go
the
ahead, Ronnie.
propaganda of the thing.
That's it.
We
That's
believe
it.
and we swim in the propaganda of the thing.
That's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. See, it's something as so simple as that road that we talked about yesterday, Susan, Sandy, Michael. Remember, we talked about the road that I mentioned, the road that goes straight, and then you got the fork in the road. Your enemy ran down the end, and he turned the road to flip it the other way. And now you're headed to the west. Now you're headed with Rome when you should have been on the right track. And maybe somewhere along the line, we got sleepy and got a little tired and closed our eyes. And next thing we know, somebody else switched out the back seat and got in the front seat, and they started driving, and we ended up on the other side. However it ended up, we got to turn back. Now that we know this, we have to return to him. It's a necessity.
And then we can see that the coming of the end of the age is nearer than ever. But with what you have on the screen right now, just read that for face value. If you go to the right side of the screen where it's
Yeah,
saying
I can switch. I can move that over
no,
a
no,
little
no,
bit.
it's just right, it's right there.
Okay.
But if you just read those different translations, it says the sons of the risen Lord is 666. The
That's what it says.
children of Adonicom is 666. The children of Adonicom is 666. Like, so if you're worshiping the risen Lord as your father, then you're the children of that. And you are the mark of the beast. You are 666. You're in that number. You're in that number. And that's just looking at that for face value. I mean, that is outstanding. But out of Yahweh's own profession, he tells you that we are adopted sons of Yah, and we are co-inheritors. We co-rule with him.
Mm-hmm.
And this is all in Zechariah.
Mm-hmm.
It's in a lot of places, but
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm tracking.
but it's all in Zechariah. Like we are co-heirs. We are co-heirs to this thing. We're not. Jesus isn't our father. He's our brother,
Mm-hmm.
which means we are sons of Elohim as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And how many times have we seen or heard that we're joint heirs? We're joint heirs.
Right, but through the lens that so what's amazing is that we hear it and we don't hear it. And this is exactly what he's vocalizing when he tells us what Isaiah was saying when they have ears but they don't hear, they don't understand. They have they have eyes but they're not perceiving. And then he goes on to say that's exactly why I speak in parables.
Mm.
You know what's interesting is when you look at that passage in the text, they asked him, "How come you speak in parables?" And he tells you, "This is why I speak in parables, because they're basically dumb, deaf, and blind." Because he said they have ears, but they don't hear. They have eyes, but they don't perceive, and they do not understand. So, I mean, I'm paraphrasing when I say dumb, deaf, and blind, but that's basically what he was saying.
That's basically it. Yeah.
And so what he was saying, so he goes on, he continues on to say, and this is the reason why I speak in parables, lest they do hear what I'm saying, and they turn from their ways, and I would have to heal them. Do you hear how that is not what's being preached on the pulpit? The pulpit tells you that, oh, he's come to heal he's come to save everybody, but he's speaking in code specifically so he don't have to heal everybody.
Because not everybody gonna hear him anyway.
I'm not making that up. Go and read it for yourself. It tells you, it says, lest they turn from their ways and I would have to heal them.
Wow.
Yeah, so all I'm saying is that this thing is not for everybody. That is, Rome is injecting themselves into the narrative so they can feel like they're a part of what they believe is going to happen at the end of days. Like and so they have to take charge of it. But it's not for everybody. It's for the ones who have ears to hear and eyes to see, and those who have understanding. That's what all of this. That's what all of this is for. And when you do have eyes to see and ears to hear, then you turn and you go back to the house of Jacob, because that's the house that Yahweh, that Yah was. We saw that yesterday, right? That's the heir. Like he's been given that as his inheritance.
That's right. I remember that from yesterday. Yeah.
So he's been given the house of Israel as his inheritance. Who? By the Most High, by El Elyon, which is his father. Yeah, Yah has a father.
Yep. Yep.
But nonetheless, all of this is not so much. Well, it is, but let me rephrase. It's not that it's only idolatry. This is Rome's idolatry imparted on the masses, and we were born into it.
Thank you.
So we've taken it. You know what's it called? Bait and hook,
the bait. Could you say that again? Because that right there, it's Rome. Go ahead, say that again.
It's not only that it is idolatry. This is Rome's idolatry that has been pushed onto the populace at large, and how they've taken the world by sword. We know what the Inquisition is about. We just don't talk about it.
Yes. That's it. And that's part of what we're here for today, for the unveiling in today's podcast. We're right now 2 hours and 32 minutes into this podcast, and the question is for part 2 is, was Paul a liar? And then we are obviously going into a lot of other things that we did say at the very top, which was yesterday at the first and part 1, some of the things that we're going to be looking at. I know that the next piece, that this right here is enough as far as I'm concerned for anybody to really definitely go on ahead and get themselves together and just digest on this for just a second. Just digest this. But the next part, I really do want that separated. Okay, I don't want it to be blended with this.
Right.
For obvious reasons, because I believe that sometimes when you get a good word that you really need to go and study out, you need to study this part. And so for right here, I am going to say, and I'm going to ask, obviously, for your permission to tell me when you can come back and do the part, because I want to deal with Mesopotamia. I don't want it to be a part of this. I thought I did yesterday, but now that this is laid here, I want all of the people who are here. We've got Susan, we've got Michael, we've got Sandy, we've got start from. We got a lot of people here who are very learned and a lot of people who really do study. And so I want them to go on ahead and bring some more
Well,
stuff to the table with this. But I do want to know if
we
we can
can.
table this to do a midnight oil, or
Yeah,
can
we
we
can.
table this?
We
Huh?
can. We can. We can.
Okay, okay,
Like
okay. Go ahead.
we'll discuss it all, offline or what have you. But we definitely can. But as a segue to get there, um, like this dying and rising Lord motif has been around since the beginning. Since the beginning, and it is a real thing. You can look at it as mythos. You can look at it as something that is extra spectacular or what have you, but like it is recorded in the annals of history over and over again in multiple cultures. So whether you believe there to be some type of truth in it or whatever, I'll at least say that that story and that motif has been present alongside of humanity since ever, since ever, and it serves its purpose, and it has a purpose. This is the thing. As far as the children of Yah are concerned, it
Uh-huh.
is an abomination to be weeping for Tammuz. It is an abomination to be serving and worshiping the dying and rising Lord. That's not what we're supposed to be doing. Our Creator has given us a gift that brings us closer into His presence, and we're supposed to utilize that as a pathway and as a door to gain access to Him. We're not supposed to worship the door.
That is so true. That is so true. I'm glad that we had this time together today. I'm glad that you were able to come and share with us again. I want to let you guys know that we are going to get into Mesopotamia. We are going to talk about the Samaritan tablets, and we're going to talk about all of that stuff, everything that we can grasp and chat about. We're going to have that conversation because these are the conversations that need to be had. We mentioned yesterday, or at least I did before we close, and I know that Ronnie mentioned it as well when we started to talk about it, and that is that and he did make a very good adjustment to what was said, and that was that it's amazing how much Genesis um, looks like the Mesopotamian writings. And yeah, they pretty much are, because Mesopotamia did predate a lot of things. And we're going to get into that. And it's important to get into that for us to understand all that we've learned and to readjust ourselves and to realign ourselves. But don't do anything without study. You must study. And again, I don't mind a healthy kickback or a healthy pushback to anything that's been said here, especially as long as it's respectful. Um, I don't mind that. Do that, and then come back when we post it, because we're going to post it again. I'm going to consult with Ronnie to find out when is a good time, because when we have Ronnie here, it's because his schedule is really busy, like all of yours is. So we're going to make sure that if we can come back and do, a midnight oil on Sunday night, or if we can do a Sunday supper, that would be really good to have Sunday supper, because we haven't done that in a while, Ronnie. That would be really nice for us to do that. We haven't done that in what, almost, I hate to say a year. Was it 6 months, 8 months, a year? That's bad. But Sunday dinner, I would love for us to do Sunday dinner. You tell me when you want to come back, and I want everybody here to know that they do have the same open invitation as they always do to join us whenever we decide to have a podcast, especially one that needs this much thought. And if you don't mind, if you agree or don't agree, share this out with somebody. If it's something that you want to say, listen to these nuts, listen to these great people, however you want to fashion it. Um, Please do, and please send it out. So, Ronnie, what do you have to say before closing?
Beware the false prophet. And how do you do that? You have to arm yourself. You have to arm yourself with my people. What does he say? My people perish for lack of knowledge. So we need to, if we don't have the gift of discernment, which is the voice of the set apart spirit in which we are to listen diligently to, then we have to pray for it. Um, especially as the time approaches. So do our due diligence to sift out the lies, because the false prophet is literally a roaring lion, that is presenting itself as this peaceful and meek lamb. But we will be devoured, and we will be devoured because of our own decisions. So choose wisely, moving forward. And in saying that, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom to you as well, brother. And thank you so much for being here. You guys, wasn't that awesome? It was awesome. I'm really, really excited anytime Ronnie has a chance to come and visit with us. Please keep your eye open for your, what are those? Your bell notification. Have the bell notification clicked. Make sure that you go in and look at your settings. If you have us on cell phone, make sure that your settings has us for the headlines or the voice or the Lockhart Perspective. Make sure that on your settings on your phone that, sometimes stuff resets and you don't get your you don't get your notification. So please make sure that you have that set so that you can come back in and chat with us. I want to thank each and every one of you. I want to take a special moment out to thank all of my mods. You guys are bad. You guys are truly on point, and I appreciate each and every one of you guys. And I know that I made the right decision for everybody that I've chosen to have one of those blue wrenches, because you all are well-learned individuals. You are very patient individuals. You got a lot of spunk, and I like that. If we all could hang out, Sandy would tell you we'd all have a good time. But anyway, you guys, I want to thank each and every one of you for hanging out with us today. Please make sure that you look out for the notification of when we are going to cover the mess up. And it's going to be either tonight, tomorrow, or tomorrow night, based on Ronnie's schedule. It's not going to be one of these 5 month down the lane and you guys rubbing your eyes talking about what we talk about. We'll be back there. Okay. It's not going to be like that. And so, so keep the lookout. We're going ahead and post it. As soon as he gives me the date and time, I'm going to go ahead and put it there. But please give us a little bit of grace, because for whatever reason, if the date and time ends up being something that he has to change, you'll see that. You'll see the date or the time change, but we're going to post it up just so that we have it. And that way we can move forward from there, because the next part, just like every other part, is going to be very, very juicy. It's going to be one of those things where we're going to break it all down. You guys, some of the words that you may want to look up in your own time today is over here from Ezra 2:13, and I recommend you go into the interlinear. You're going to cross-reference that and start back at Revelation 13:18. I believe it's 13:18. And then another thing you're going to want to look up is Tammuz, and do some really good research on Tammuz. Don't just do the first thing that Bing or the first thing that Chrome gives you. To Michael's point, you may want to try DuckDuckGo. I mean, they've gotten a little watered down as well, but it's still worth a shot. Or you may have some study literature at home that you can pull it up in. No matter what it is, look at these things, study them out, find it out, and eat it, and ask the Most High, ask Yah to share with you as you go through and showing you what is Him and what ain't, what is Yah and what ain't. So thank you, everybody, for being here. I truly appreciate it. I hope that each and every one of you take care of yourselves first until we see each other again, because as I always say, if you don't take care of yourself first, nobody else will. The only way for you to take care of those that you know are assigned to you, that love you, is for you to do for you, and then turn around and take care of somebody else. But until we see each other again, I want you all to remember to take care of my friend, because my friend is you. Peace. To receive instant notification each time I upload, please hit the subscribe button and the bell notification.
Lockhart Perspective. Helping